This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Naruto Became God of Wind. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Arena at Konoha Stadium. Naruto took a closer look at what his jutsu had just accomplished. Sure, he could recall practicing it against big trees or rocks during his training, but this was the first time he had used Rasengan against a person. The outcome was simultaneously horrifying and astounding. He was aware that if he had released the orb with more chakra inside of it, rather than just scratching his opponent, he would have torn a hole in his body. He was trying to catch his breath and was lost in thought as he stood there in the middle of the arena. Seats for spectators. The sight of the Rasengan again astonished the majority of the spectators. That was one of the Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato's two signature moves. Few of them were aware that Jiraiya could also use it, but the elderly pervert hardly ever visited Konoha. On the occasions when he did, the recluse only went to the Sandaime or the Red Light District. Kakashi thought, how the hell did Naruto learn Minato Sensei's jutsu? Sasuke's mind was racing with questions. What is that jutsu? I couldn't copy it either. How did he progress so much in only a month? Is Kakashi the right sensei for me? What have I been doing all this time? Gazing proudly at her sensei's son, Kurenai thought, Kushina Sensei would have been so proud of you, Naruto. Show them all your true worth. Arena Genma was going to declare Naruto the winner after seeing Gaara's motionless form when a chakra explosion rocked the stadium and obscured the view for everyone outside the arena with a dense cloud of sand and dust. With his eyes fixed on the demonic chakra seeping out of the arena, Naruto thought, so it has finally come to this. The real fight starts now. Naru.kun. Be careful and remember the techniques you learned, Natsuki said. Gaara's new form emerged in front of everyone as the dust settled. His appearance was that of a chimera. A combination of his ancient body, some overgrown sand armor, and some animal features, such as his two pointed ears and tail behind his back. The beast roared, I'm free after so long, the boy is finally asleep. How unpleasant to finally meet you, Shukaku? Naruto asked, removing his protective vest and revealing a strange tattoo of a fox on his right biceps. He also tore off the sleeve of his right hand. Natsuki warned Naruto, remember you only control one of my tails so far, Naru.kun. Sensing that she was about to use her powers. Naruto spread some of his blood over his fox tattoo and said, I know Na-chan. This Yuki storage seal only contains one tail worth of your Yuki so far. I'll have to read the Uzumaki scroll again to know how to boost its storage capacity up. After a while, Naruto was the source of another chakra surge that reverberated throughout the arena. His seal's activation, or deactivation, depending on your perspective, managed to combine a significant amount of Natsuki's power with his own. Instead of his usual blue eyes, he had blood-red ones, and his entire body was surrounded by a red chakra aura. Cage Box Sarutobi's gaze grew wide at the show of strength inside the arena. Then he turned to face his former pupil and began to mumble. The Sandaime asked his student, Jiraiya, what was the seal he released just before that second chakra surge? And is it demonic chakra I feel? Yes, that's a seal we came up with together, while going through the scroll he found on his family's Fuinjutsu. It allows him to store demonic chakra, or Yuki as he calls it, for future use. Furthermore, it is completely harmless for his body since it doesn't come directly from the fox but has been filtered through that special purification seal. Responded the Gamma Sennin to his sensei. Naturally not able to hear the previous conversation, the Kazekage was furious at what he saw, starting with the Gamma Sennin's arrival. Although he was confident he could handle Sarutobi, everything changed when Jiraiya showed up. Then he saw that Amir Genin was pushing around his greatest weapon for weakening Konoha's forces, the Ichibi. Ultimately, it is revealed that Mir Genin, quite unlike Gaara, was most likely the Kyuubi no Yoko's host and appeared to have some control over his demonic abilities. The most sensible course of action at that point would have been to call off the invasion and stealthily withdraw every pawn he had before being detected and losing the element of surprise. He chose to hold off on making a move a little while longer, as his spies in the stadium were still awaiting his order to begin the operation. Arena choosing to launch his attack first, Shukaku inhaled deeply, filled his lungs to the brim, and then let go with such force that he sent a massive column of pressurized air in Naruto's direction, referring to his jutsu as Futon Renkuden. After depleting all of his chakra reserves once more, Naruto chose to employ one of his more taxing counters. He charged wind chakra into his hands and slammed them to the ground, mentally referring to the jutsu as Futon Higumo Toshi. In Wave Country, he had employed the same maneuver against Zabuza's water dragon. Behind his wind wall, Naruto was protected from Shukaku's missile. The condensed air mass simply collided with the rising wind column he created without inflicting any damage. Shukaku was infuriated by this and, not liking to see his jutsu easily countered, he launched the same attack again, using 3 air cannonballs this time instead of just 1. As he continued to absorb every air missile the Ichibi was hurling at him and deflect them into the sky, Naruto smirked as he noticed a massive dark cloud forming above them. Subsequently, Naruto produced a unique-looking kunai and hurled it towards the raccoon. Human hybrid, utilizing hand gestures while doing so. Few people in the crowd understood the series of hand signals he used. To the others, it appeared somewhat familiar. Naruto uttered the words, "Futon. Ho-Oh Gashi," as he concluded the final hand sign. "Uzumaki Naruto, I don't know what you're trying to do, but that jutsu of yours won't be able to pierce my defense. I was aware of my surroundings when you were fighting the boy, so even if your kunai reach me back with that strange technique, it won't damage me," the Ichibi replied. As promised, the kunai split into a dozen pieces before turning around and aiming for his back, just like when Naruto used the Sabama Gashi for the first time. He didn't even think it necessary to launch a defense to block the approaching kunai. To his astonishment, though, he realized as they got closer to strike him that those kunai weren't your typical kind. Instead, each one had an explosive tag attached, making it ready to explode. Before he could respond, all of the exploding tags burst, generating a massive flame that, when paired with Naruto's initial wind attack, gave the appearance of a firebird. Shukaku felt the fire predator strike his back. Large flames surrounded the beast's body, and its roar and cries of agony sent shivers down everyone's spine in the stadium. Then, using his swiftness to move behind him, Naruto kicked hard at its head, forcing it to fall into the center of the arena. The 4 kunai he appeared to have dropped during the opening phase of the battle began to glow when he performed a single-handed gesture, indicating that they had actually been positioned in a perfect square around the Ichibi. Uzumaki Hajutsu, Akuma Sokubaku Wana, called Naruto as his trap sprang into action, causing 4 dark chains to emerge from the earth, each of which proceeded to tightly bind a limb of the beast. With much of his body still on fire, Shukaku attempted to break free from the chains, but he could feel his strength being quickly sapped, presumably by the chains themselves. Subsequently, Naruto utilized his wind channeling ability once more and called his next jutsu, Futon Kirin Otoshi, before slamming his hands onto the ground in front of his opponent's feet. From the ground rose a new column of air, the large dark cloud at the top and the still restrained and burning Shukaku at its base. A moment later, a massive thunderbolt emerged from the cloud, struck the imprisoned demon squarely, entered through the conductive chains, and dispersed into the earth. The Suna no Yoroi was nearly completely destroyed by the energy of Naruto's last attack, which also removed the kunai and chains that had been trapping it. The attack was so powerful that it even melted the Ichibi's guard. A dazzling white light engulfed the jutsu, and when people's eyes finally adjusted to the intense flash, all they saw in the arena was an unconscious Gaara on the ground. The extra sand-covered appendages on his body had vanished, and there was no sign of any demonic chakra emanating from him either. Standing a few feet away, Naruto's deep blue eyes had returned and his aura of chakra had also vanished. He appeared a little worn out, but he did not appear injured. His injury sustained in the opening stages of the match against Gaara had already healed. Genma retraced his steps to the arena's center after seeking safety in a corner. He stooped to see how the Suna shinobi was doing. He stood up and turned to face the audience, feeling the young redhead's pulse and letting out a sigh. Everyone in the stadium was silently waiting for the referee to make an announcement. Outside the stadium walls, there were several noises and the wind blowing, and the silence was growing more and more pronounced when Genma finally spoke. The referee wearing a bandana finally declared, "Uzumaki Naruto is the winner of the fight, winner by knockout. Sabaku no Gaara is unconscious and consequently unable to continue the fight." A few more silent seconds later, the stadium erupted into cheers for one Uzumaki Naruto, and all hell broke loose. The Leaf's pariah stood in the middle of the arena, unsure of how to respond to the applause, appreciative glances, and joyful cries he could see and hear from the spectators. Seats for spectators Kiba and Hinata, who had returned shortly before the final assault, were clapping their hands in unison with everyone else, celebrating their teammate. Kurenai laughed that her student didn't know how to respond in that circumstance and was proud of him. The other students were astounded by the degree of talent that their fellow genin comrade had demonstrated. A number of Chunin and Jonin commented on Naruto's development and the way he appeared to be fully in control of the Kyuubi's abilities during their battle. They could observe directly the distinction between a host under the power of his beast. Gaara's image, and one gazing at Naruto who was in control of his inner demon. While everyone around them was impressed by the fight, the several foreign ninja who attended the match made a mental note to talk to their leader about the Leaf's extremely dangerous yet extremely talented new talent for future reference. As if they were lifelong friends, the shallow civilians who had detested Naruto for the most of his life now looked up to him and applauded him. Cage box. There were conflicting responses in the cage box. The cage remained quiet. Damn it. With Gaara out of the picture, I can forget about the invasion. It was already looking bad with the addition of Jiraiya, but now I just lost my trump card, he was thinking. There's nothing I can do, so I'll have to cancel, the masked cage murmured to someone in the audience. Jiraiya and Sarutobi were also rejoicing for the young blonde at the same moment. Doesn't it remind you of another certain blonde-haired blue-eyed boy Jiraiya? Sarutobi questioned his pupil. Yes, sensei, it certainly does, replied the Toad Sage before adding, I can't believe he went that far in only a month. I taught him the Rasengan in only 2 weeks. It took me months to master that. I only taught him the basics in Fuinjutsu and he was able to create such an intricate trap based on them in the middle of a damn match. Are you disappointed that he will not take over you as the next Toad Sage now that he is the summoner of the legendary contract of the dragons? Replied the Sandaime. I would lie if I said that it doesn't affect me, but I know that I can't request anything from him. After all, I'm his godfather and I was never there for him when he needed me, Jiraiya said with seriousness. Speaking on a topic he had been wanting to discuss with Jiraiya for a while, Sarutobi said, you had no choice in the matter. We both know he would have faced the same or worse dangers if he went with you during your travels. We will have to tell him the truth about his father soon, Jiraiya. The Sennin answered, I know, sensei, let's wait until the tournament is over. Don't you think he makes a good Chunin? Inquired the elderly Cage. With a proud tone in his voice, Jiraiya said, he sure does. Arena, since Uzumaki Naruto has to fight again, it is only fair to have a break now. The finals will resume in 1 hour, known as Genma. The audience took advantage of the 1 hour break Naruto was given to eat, rest, and rehydrate after watching such a mentally taxing match. Everyone was back in their seats when the allotted time was up. Naruto had gone home to change into new clothes and stopped at the Ichiraku ramen bar for a quick bite to eat while he stood in the middle of the arena. Even though Genma was present, Sasuke was still missing. Arena at Konoha Stadium. Naruto was biding his time until his next bout began. He was able to restore some of the chakra he had used to battle Gaara during the break, but it was still far short of what he could have. When the redhead eventually woke up, he was reminded of their conversation by thinking about the other Jinchuruki. Flashback. 20 minutes ago, at the stadium entrance, Naruto had met the Hokage on his way to the contestants' waiting area after returning from the break. That was a great performance earlier, Naruto-kun, Sarutobi said to his surrogate grandson. Thanks, Gigi, it's all thanks to the training I went through last month. Arrow. Sennin may seem lazy sometimes, but during training he's a real slave driver, replied Naruto. The nickname Naruto gave his former pupil made the Sandaime laugh. There was no way the boy would accept Naruto addressing Jiraiya by a formal name if even he, the shinobi no kami, could not get him to address him with deference. Well, it's all good, but I came here to tell you personally that in order to continue the tournament, I want you to check in at the infirmary to see if everything is alright first. You had an incredibly hard fight just an hour ago, announced the elderly gentleman. Naruto said, but I'm perfectly fine, Gigi. He had never liked hospitals, doctors, or nurses because of his horrific childhood experiences. It's alright, Naruto, I selected the staff myself. They all moved in Konoha recently and hold no grudge against you for your burden, Sarutobi replied. As he headed to the infirmary, Naruto said, fine, I'll go, but I tell you I'm fine. He was shocked to see Gaara in one of the beds as soon as he entered. The medical staff was by themselves with the Jinchuriki. His eyes snapped open, and he appeared to be lost in reverie. Naruto asked, I see you woke up, how do you feel? The redhead asked, it's been a long time since I last had a moment of sleep, what happened? After he passed out, Naruto told him how the fight had gone. Gaara was intrigued to learn more about this mysterious blonde boy and was shocked that a boy his own age could tame the beast. Why did you not finish me when you had the chance? I threatened you on several occasions, and had it been me in your shoes I would have not spared you, he said without any emotion. Gaara's eyes widened at the revelation, and Naruto answered, because I too experienced the pain, I too felt the loneliness. I am also hated by most of the villagers for something I had no control over, we share the same burden. So why are you not like me? Inquired Gaara, who was still overcome with the Ichibi's deadly aura. It all changed when I met her. I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Even me, the pariah, the demon, the monster as they all called me, had some people I could honestly call my family even if we don't share the same blood," said Naruto. "So that's why you are strong. I wish I had people like yours, or that we met earlier," the genin of Suna replied. "Well, I don't know about your village, but at least your brother and sister seemed concerned about you after our fight was over, or during your fight with Lee. Moreover, I think there's something wrong with your seal. I'm a beginner, but one of my teachers is a master in the art. He could take a look at it one day, to see if we can get you to have some control over your burden and maybe catch a good night of sleep," replied Naruto with a grin. The first smile Gaara had ever given anyone was, "I would like that." The smile vanished almost instantly, and he resumed his speech. "I think there's something you and your leader needs to know. It's about some ex-ninja of yours trying to destroy the leaf with the help of Suna," began Gaara. Flashback concludes immediately following his encounter with Gaara. Naruto ran off to the elderly man. He filled him in on everything, including Orochimaru's alliance with Suna and his plans to destroy the leaf, the location and plan of all the enemy Foss's hiding places. Additionally, Naruto informed Sarutobi that Sasuke was Sarutobi's secondary target, even though Konoha was his old student's main objective. Amidst the chaos, the snake intended to abduct him. First to be shocked was Sarutobi, whose calm and obliging demeanor made it hard for him to accept that Suna was collaborating with the traitor and that Orochimaru had descended to such a level. He scowled at that second thought because he had known the Cage for a very long time, and this did not seem like the kind of thing the man would do. The elderly man grasped everything, not to mention that the man's chakra signature, which was sitting next to him during the finals, felt remarkably familiar. Without delay, he organized his Anbu and requested a meeting with Baki, the Suna delegation's second highest-ranking officer. The man was already doubting himself and saw some odd happenings surrounding the current Cage, but he was unable to provide any evidence. Naruto's presence at the meeting, along with the three Suna siblings, who all attested to their father's strange behavior over the previous few weeks, was what ultimately convinced him. With the assistance of Konoha's most astute strategist, Shukaku Nara, and the participation of Baki and everyone he could reach out to persuade among their troops that their leader was not who they believed, a plan was quickly hatched. Anbu patrols had also taken Uchiha Sasuke off the grid and placed him in a secure location. Re-entering the arena, when Naruto noticed the Sandaime back in the cage box, he snapped out of his reverie. The elderly man nodded subtly. Cage box Orochimaru was furious that Jiraiya and the Kyuubi brat had interfered to thwart his scheme as the Sandaime was settling in. Given that he allegedly still had a ninja fighting during the exams, the snake was unable to flee. That would be extremely suspicious. Furthermore, his spies claimed that while Uchiha Sasuke was heading to the stadium, they lost track of him. Calling off the invasion was probably the best thing he did today because it seemed like everything was going wrong on this particular day. Then, Sarutobi made the decision to engage in a quick game and establish the man's identity by saying, "That was a great performance earlier, a shame your shinobi lost. Indeed, I was sure my son would have won his fight and then faced the last Uchiha in the following fight. Speaking of that, I don't see the Uchiha," replied the cloaked Cage. "There's no denying it now. The Cage I recall never refers to Gaara as his son." Sarutobi nodded to Jiraiya. The Cage sensed something off, and knew right away that the stadium had been subjected to a massive genjutsu cast. He knew that he had signaled the operation to be stopped, so his subordinate's jutsu could not have been the cause. His eyes grew wide as he realized Konoha had found out about his plan and was attempting to utilize it against him. Suddenly, there was a smoke bomb thrown into the room. Surprised, Sarutobi and Jiraiya jumped back from the fictitious Cage and his bodyguards. As they prepared to attempt an arrest, Orochimaru and his men managed to back away and make their way to the stadium's rooftop, but they were unable to act quickly enough. When they finally arrived at the summit, they were horrified to see Auto Shinobi being massacred by Konoha and Suna ninjas throughout the entire village and even inside the stadium. Orochimaru realized that things had only gotten worse. In a few seconds, Kabuto joined him. His right-hand man reported, "Our forces are targeted and destroyed all around the village Orochimaru-sama. How about the troops outside the village?" "It's the same as inside. Suna has turned against us and they can't get into the village," replied Kabuto. Orochimaru declared, "Go ahead and order them to fall back to Otogakure." Kabuto asked, "How about the troops inside the village, my lord?" The snake Sennin said, "You have your orders." As he walked away, Kabuto replied, "Very well, Orochimaru-sama." Then, turning to face his elite guard, Orochimaru said, "Have you done what I asked of you?" The 4 shinobi who were kneeling in front of him exclaimed, "Hi Orochimaru, Sama." They all departed silently after he gave the order, "Good, now leave, I will join you soon." At that moment, Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and several Anbu members showed up on the roof. "This is the end, Orochimaru. I will finish what I started years ago, but this time I won't let you escape," said Sarutobi. "The end? Your old age must be getting to you, sensei. You may have won today, but I promise you Konoha will burn. I will come back another day for your head, you old fool," the snake replied. "Do you honestly think I will let you get away after all this?" Jiraiya replied. Orochimaru answered, "I see you are still the loyal dog of Konoha you always were, Jiraiya." Just as they were about to charge at him, Orochimaru gestured with one hand, and all of a sudden the village was filled with explosions. He gave his men the order to plant explosive tags throughout Konoha that could be triggered by his chakra. Then, taking advantage of this diversion, the treacherous snake avoided that area. "Leave him be, we don't have the time to run after him. At this rate a full-scale fight with him inside the village would cost us a lot in terms of human lives and repairs to be done after that," the Sandaime replied. "After dispatching the enemies inside the village, do not pursue them outside and just help stabilize the situation inside." He turned to face the Anbu commander. The Anbu left the roof right away to deliver the new orders. Jiraiya said gravely, "You know, sensei, he will come back." An equally serious Sarutobi answered, "Yes, I know. That's why I want to give you a new mission after everything is over here." Within the stadium, Konoha and Tsunade's combined forces had neutralized almost every disguised Auto Nin. Kurenai actually invented the large-scale genjutsu that was previously in use. It was a straightforward sleeping genjutsu. Both the guests of the nobles and the commoners below the rank of Chunin had been put to sleep for their own protection. A few genin were able to withstand the attacks of Shino, Shikamaru, and the Sand siblings with their jutsu. Kurenai had completed her jutsu and awakened Naruto. They all contributed to eliminating the opposing shinobi forces. Council chamber time. Skip. A week later, it had been 1 week since Orochimaru's abortive invasion of Konoha. Right now, Sarutobi was briefing his council on the events that followed the battles. "We lost 31 civilians, 57 shinobi, and we have over 200 wounded. Suna lost 48 shinobi, and it has been confirmed by Jiraiya. Sama himself that the Kazekage has been murdered weeks before the day of the finals," the council reported the Anbu commander. "We estimate that Orochimaru lost more than 300 shinobi and we captured 117 of his men," Ibiki declared. "The damage to the structures all around Konoha were extensive. I estimate that the repairs will be complete in approximately 3 months," said Shukaku. After pausing for thought, Sarutobi spoke to the council. "Very well, we have confirmation that Suna has been played by Orochimaru and was not voluntary in this invasion. For the duration of the repairs, all genin will be confined inside the village to help and their jonin will be affected to higher missions outside the village to maintain our position of the strongest ninja village," the Hokage was announced. "Furthermore, it has come to my attention that within the lives we lost in our shinobi forces, most were Chunin ranks. Therefore, I will now announce the nominations for Chunin promotions from the current exams. According to the Sandaime, the contestants nominated are Aburame Shino, Hyuga Neji, Nara Shikamaru and Uzumaki Naruto," Sarutobi said. Up until they heard the last name, all of the council members were nodding, which infuriated the civilian population. The civilian side yelled, "What? Why him? And, we cannot let that thing advance in the ranks." Then Sarutobi silenced them in the room with a flare of his chakra. "Did you fools not see his skills at the exams? If I only had one spot for the Chunin promotion, it would go to him automatically. He managed to subdue by himself an enemy Jinchuriki who went berserk. And do I need to remind to you that promotions of my shinobi only concerns the ninja side of the council? I do not require your permission. Moreover, Naruto was the one who saved all your lives again, as he is the one who warned me about the invasion after he talked to the Suna Jinchuriki after their fight. Finally, not only you fools were looking at him in the finals. Foreign shinobi were also in the stadium as we open our gates to everyone during those times. Who do you think they will all report to their leaders about first when they come back to their village?" He dismissed them all because no one could come up with a counter-argument against the Kami no shinobi. Time skip. A week later at the Hokage office. As Sarutobi opened the most recent bingo book, he was forced to sigh once more, true to his words, upon discovering that Naruto's profile had been updated. It said, "Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Nickname: Konoha's K's no Kami. Age. 13 rank. A+ status. Chunin main attribute. Kenjutsu, Ninjutsu and Fuinjutsu. Affinities. Wind bloodline. Unknown description. Has a very high affinity to the wind element. Holder of the mythical dragon summoning contract. Defeated Momochi Zabuza the Kirigakure no Kijin in Wave Country. Defeated Sabaku no Gaara the Sunas Ichibi Jinchuriki. Action. Engage with caution bounty. 30 million Ryo dead or alive in Iwa. Apparently, news of Naruto's progress traveled fast. Iwa had the habit to target any promising shinobi from Konoha, so that wasn't really a shock either. Just then he was interrupted from his reading by the appearance of Naruto and Jiraiya in his office. Good to see you both here, I have an important mission for you too. Office of Hokage Jiraiya and Naruto, wearing his new Chunin vest, were standing in front of Sarutobi as he sat in his office. Naruto-kun, sit down please, we need to talk. Now the last events from 2 weeks ago taught me one thing. Do you know what I learned? Asked the elderly gentleman. The blonde smirked and said, that you shouldn't let masked men sit near you during official meetings? The two other people in the room laughed at his response. Sarutobi removed his Hokage hat and said, no Naruto-kun, I learned that I'm getting old, too old in fact to continue to keep this hat. Why? You're finally giving me the hat, Gigi? A shocked Naruto exclaimed as his eyes grew wide. A few moments of serious, almost too serious, facial expressions from both Sarutobi and Jiraiya later, all hell broke loose as Sarutobi exclaimed, ha 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 ha, that's not nice to laugh Jiraiya, ha 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 ha. The pervert went on, but did you see his face, ha 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 ha, this is too much Naruto, you are the best. The poor Naruto was red with embarrassment and rage, and he could hear the Anbu hiding behind the walls laughing heartily. The elderly people in the room and the walls eventually became quiet after a short while. No Naruto, as much as I would like for you to become my successor, you are not quite ready for that yet. Don't let it get to you. This may not be your time yet, but I know that time will come, and I'm sure Jiraiya feels the same about this, said Sarutobi as the hermit nodded. Then Naruto smiled brightly at them and let Sarutobi continue. Naruto's eyes widened at this, his first rank mission as an official Chunin. I called you both here today for an important mission, Naruto, a rank at least. Your mission is to go find my old student and teammate of Jiraiya. Her name is Senju Tsunade and she is the one chosen to replace me, finishing the cage. Naruto said, making the two men smile. Okay, if she's Ero, Sennin's former teammate, then I guess she's strong enough to have the hat and to protect Konoha. When do we leave? We need to talk about something else before the mission begins in 2 hours, Sarutobi began, gesturing with his hands to keep any spying going on in the room. With that, Naruto arched an eyebrow. What could be more secret than the next Hokage's identity? Sarutobi asked in the most serious voice Naruto had ever heard. Naruto, you have to promise me to stay calm and let me finish talking before you say anything. The blonde gave him a nod. Good, now I know Natsuki already explained who your mother was. Well, Naruto, this is about your father. This is about your other parent, the Hokage said, startling Naruto out of his seat as a million ideas raced through his head. Sensing that Naruto was beginning to shake beneath his hand, Jiraiya approached him and placed a hand on his apprentice's shoulder before stating, I know you were always told that no one knew who your father was, that your mother never told anyone, but that was a lie. Jiraiya finally spoke, peering into the blonde's eyes. Naruto, your father was Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage and my student. But then, how, why, was all that came out of Naruto's mouth. I'm so sorry my boy, I know you always wanted to know about your father. Learning that your father, the man who you consider as your idol, the one who sealed Natsuki in you and condemned you to a life of misery or one and the same person must hurt you terribly, but you have to understand the reasons. Pleaded with the elderly gentleman. Minato was a man loved by all inside the leaf, but he was also a man feared by all throughout the world. He was the only shinobi with a flee on sight recommendation on his bingo book profile in every village that was considered hostile to Konoha. Jiraiya continued. If any of those villages had learned about you being his son, regardless of the means we would have taken to protect you, they would have sent countless assassination missions to take you out before you could even say your first word. That is also the reason why we couldn't let Jiraiya, your father's sensei, take you with him, as everyone would have been able to understand the link between you and your father, Sarutobi said. This is how much your father and his legacy were feared, the price of his glory, finished Jiraiya. Are you going to be okay Naruto-kun? Asked a worried Sarutobi, we could always postpone the mission or assign it to someone else. Prior to speaking, Naruto inhaled deeply. I'm not fine right now, Gigi, but I want to be. I want to be someone my father would be proud of when we finally meet again. He put his trust in me and he gave me what most consider a curse, but to me Natsuki is not, she is a blessing. He spoke those words with tenacity. As she listened to everything, Natsuki's eyes filled with tears, wishing she could be free of the seal right now and embrace her partner. I love you so much, Naruto-kun. I know we ended up together through odd events, but I'm glad we did. Before I was sealed in you, I never experienced those emotions. It was only thanks to the seal your father created, that through our link I learned the feelings of love and compassion. I know that you will find a way for us to be together in the real world one day, and I can't wait for that day to come. Through their connection, Naruto heard Natsuki, and it only strengthened his resolve to improve himself. Naruto bowed to the two men in front of him and declared, I understand the price of glory, Hokage. Sama, Jiraiya. Sensei, it took from me my family and my childhood. I will not let it take away my future, before leaving the office to get ready for his next mission. The two seasoned shinobi were so taken aback by the youthful Chunin's wisdom that they failed to notice that it was the first, and probably the last, time he would address them with an honorific. It required a moment for them to be able to shift from their position. Jiraiya spoke proudly, he will go far, Sensei, further than any of us and probably even further than his father. I'm sure he will, Jiraiya. All we can do now is to look after him and help him achieve his dreams. I'm counting on you, Jiraiya. Don't let anything happen to him. He may not be ready right now, but he is the future of Konoha and most likely the future to change this terrible world too, replied a similarly proud Sarutobi. Jiraiya said as he was leaving the office, I will, Sensei, and don't worry, I will also bring Tsunade back. Sarutobi's eyes widened, realizing that he had neglected to mention Naruto's ancestry and the new bingo book. 2 hours later, at Konoha main gate, Naruto could not resist stopping himself as he approached the gate to have a closer look at the Hokage mountain. To him, the fourth face carved in it took on a completely new meaning. He silently swore and raised his fist in its direction. I'll make you proud, Dad. I'll become a man you will be proud to call your son when the time for us to meet again comes. I'm sure he's already proud of you, Naru-kun, watching over you from the afterlife. Natsuki continued. When he got to the gate, Jiraiya was waiting for him, so they headed out right away. 40 hours later, a small village, Jiraiya was sent on a information gathering mission, leaving Naruto by himself in the hotel room they had reserved for the evening. Just as he was ready to fall asleep, there was a knock on the door. He scowled at this, realizing that nobody should have been aware of their mission and that the pervert had a spare set of keys. By strengthening his vocal cords with chakra, he was able to speak with a more masculine voice. Yes, what is it? Was his initial question. Room service, could you please open the door? I have a message for a man named Jiraiya, said an unidentified voice. Naruto recognized the situation right away. They had taken care to check in under false pretenses, and he was pleased with the moniker they chose. Uke-imo for him, Orochimaru for Jiraiya. The receptionist scowled at them, not that they gave a damn. Naruto realized that the man behind the door was clearly up to no good, and he needed to leave immediately. He turned to face his room's window and said, I think you have the wrong room, sir. The door slammed open as he was about to get out, revealing two men in strange black robes with red clouds all over them. One of them resembled an adult Sasuke, while the other, judging by the expression on his blue face, appeared to be constipated or experiencing some other health issue. The Sasuke lookalike said, Naruto-kun, I need you to come with us. You have the wrong person. My name is Uke-imo, though with how you just called me you may be a friend of my roommate who goes by the name Orochimaru, replied a beaming blonde. That was enough of a jab to cause the stranger with the raven hair to twitch his left eyebrow. The man continued, his partner still laughing at Naruto's previous response, you have become quite famous, Naruto-kun. We came for you before you can get stronger or someone else tries to take you out for your bounty. What bounty? What are you talking about? Asked Naruto, who was clearly shocked. The second man finally said, looks like you don't know that Iwa offers 30 million ryo for you, dead or alive. The news caused Naruto's eyes to widen. He was a marked man. Not even aware of his father's existence. People outside of the village truly wanted him dead. He would have to consider it later, but for the moment, he knew that in a small space like this hotel room, none of his more potent moves would be effective, and those two clowns appeared to be skilled as well. Subsequently, he recalled a recently acquired jutsu and thought of an opponent who had caused him problems in the practice fights. He thought to himself, Futon. Shishi Kokuo no Nikigo. before inhaling deeply and inhaling chakra. His two opponents were the target of the blast as he released the mass of air and chakra from his lungs. They were shocked to learn that he could execute jutsu without gesturing to them or making a loud noise. Naruto was able to use air vibrations to attack his internal hearing system, replicating the damage that Auto Shinobi Dosu had inflicted upon him. It was evident that the two enigmatic men in front of him did not anticipate such an attack and failed to shield their ears before it was too late. For a brief moment, the wind attack caused them to lose their balance, which gave Naruto the opportunity to try running away through the corridor until he could confront the damn pervert. No matter how skilled a shinobi was, he could never train or subtly safeguard his internal hearing organs, so Naruto had to smile at the success of his new jutsu. Regretfully, when the two men left the room, he had only made it halfway to the end of the corridor. He knew that shinobi with more experience could still bounce back from that kind of attack faster than others. He cursed that he didn't have more time to perfect the jutsu, believing that when he reached maximum power, he could use the correct chakra output to permanently destroy an opponent's internal hearing organs. The first man said, "Well, I'll admit that you're stronger than what your file says about you, Naruto-kun," before continuing. "Kisame, take him out, we can't have someone of his level running freely." With his large sword drawn, the larger man turned to face Naruto and charged at the young blonde. Naruto, who had left his weapons and gears inside the room, was defended from the sword slash by a man-sized frog that materialized in front of him before he could reach him. With a sense of relief, Naruto turned to face his sensei. Jiraiya looked a little ashamed, with an unconscious woman on his shoulder. He set her down against the wall and turned to face the two enigmatic men. "Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame, how pleasant meeting you there," he replied. One of them answered, "Jiraiya of the Sennin, supposed to be as strong as he is a pervert." "Arrow. Sennin. How did they immediately find your weak point?" replied Naruto. Jiraiya, who was still embarrassed, chastised Naruto for the nickname, but he quickly became serious, assumed a fighting stance, and called his technique Kachiyose. "Gamaguchi Shibari," exclaimed the recluse as the hallway's walls began to take on the appearance of an odd organic material. Itachi calmly announced as they began to sprint across the hallway, "Kisame, we're leaving." Itachi used an odd black fire jutsu to dig his way out just as Jiraiya's jutsu was about to trap them. After sealing some of the odd black fire into a scroll for future study, Jiraiya gave the scroll back to his pupil. A green blur suddenly attacked Jiraiya as he dispelled his jutsu. Upon recognizing the man as Lee's sensei, Naruto inquired as to his purpose for being there. "I'm so sorry, Jiraiya. Sama, I came here on a mission from Hokage Sama to warn you that young Naruto here may have new enemies after him." As he gave them the rundown on the latest bingo book update, Guy said. Jiraiya dismissed him, saying, "Okay Guy, your mission is done. You can return to Konoha." Guy bowed before leaving, saying, "Hi Jiraiya. Sama, I heard about your mission. Please bring her back to heal my student too, I beg of you." After that, Jiraiya and Naruto went back to their room. "Okay Naruto, I've got Tsunade's last known position. It's a town not far from here called Tanzaku-gai. It will take us 2 days to get there. I'm sorry I wasn't there immediately for you today, but you did good against them alone," Jiraiya replied. The blonde said, "Thanks, Arrow. Sennin." As they called it a night, Jiraiya said, "Time to up your training. While we travel we will work on improving your Rasengan." Gai Tanzaku. After the last accident, Jiraiya thought it would be wiser to always be near his disciple. Naruto and Jiraiya arrived in Tanzaku-gai at noon. Tanzaku-gai is a fairly large town. This implied that the elderly recluse was no longer able to undertake his lone, information-gathering, expeditions. They made the decision to begin their search for Tsunade in the town's more tourist-heavy area, which is well known for its gambling establishments and cultural landmarks. Jiraiya claimed that Tsunade was a major gambling game addict. Naruto began to question whether this was the best candidate to succeed his Jiji as the next Hokage in light of this. They found what were thought to be the remains of a sizable historical castle from before the Shinobi era when they arrived at the tourist area. Jiraiya was taken aback by this since the last time he visited, it was still present. They searched the many casinos in the vicinity for Tsunade for the entire afternoon, but they were unable to locate her. Jiraiya made the decision to give up looking for the day since it was getting dark outside. They traveled to a nearby inn for dinner. Within the hotel when they entered the inn, Jiraiya abruptly stopped walking and fixed his wide-open eyes on the person they had been searching for all day at the back of the room. "Tsunade!" Jiraiya exclaimed loudly. A young woman in the back of the room got up from her table and said, "Jiraiya, what are you doing here?" This woman was their target, the final member of Arrow Sennin's team with the treacherous snake, and Naruto was taken aback. Naruto could honestly admit that she was incredibly beautiful and that she could give Natsuki a run for her money, even though she did not appear to be in her 50s. Sitting next to her was another woman who looked younger, probably someone who helped her. Please, if she's really the pervert teammate, then she's probably using a henge to hide her true appearance, Natsuki replied. Jiraiya led the way, and Naruto joined them at the same table. Jiraiya started talking to his former teammate after placing his food order. Jiraiya said, "It's been a long time, Tsunade, Shizune." "Indeed it has. Nevertheless, I can't help but feel a little nostalgic. You are the second ghost of the past I've met today," replied Tsunade. Jiraiya questioned, "Orochimaru, what did he want?" Tsunade looked at her disciple Shizune and said, "Nothing much, it was just a greeting. What do you want with me though?" Instructing her to keep quiet for the time being. "Sensei has issued an order for you to come back to Konoha. You are to become his successor as the Godem Hokage," replied Jiraiya bluntly. Tsunade's eyes widened momentarily, then she closed them and inhaled deeply. Tsunade mockingly said, "I refuse, I'm not going back to that place. Besides, Hokage is a shitty job, only a fool would want to become one." With a sudden outburst, Naruto leapt from his table seat and attempted to strike Tsunade. Just in time, Jiraiya stopped him. "Why did you stop me? I won't let anyone badmouth Gigi or any other Hokage in front of me, even if she is your ex-teammate," said Naruto in a fit of rage. "Calm down, Naruto, she is the best person to succeed the old man. She's the granddaughter of the first Hokage and the best medic ninja in the whole world. Don't you remember there are still lots of injured people back in the Leaf that need her help, including that mini guy clone?" Jiraiya replied. "Who is this boy Jiraiya?" asked Tsunade, getting agitated. The Toad Sage replied, "That's Uzumaki Naruto, newly promoted Chunin and my part-time apprentice." Tsunade was taken aback upon encountering the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Yoko, the son of the final Hokage and a distant relative of her grandmother Uzumaki Mito, Uzumaki Kushina. "I don't know about her medical skills, but we could probably find much better than her to be Hokage. Look at her seriously, a 50-year-old drunk who uses a henge to look young and spends most of her time gambling," said Naruto. Tsunade said, "You've got some guts, Gaki. Want to take this outside?" As they all left the inn, Naruto exclaimed, "Fine by me." Outside the hotel, Jiraiya and Shizune were by the side of the road, while Tsunade and Naruto faced each other on an empty street outside the inn. Tsunade said, "I only need one hand to beat you, Chunin." Sadly for him, she demonstrated that she was one of the legendary three when Naruto ignored her jab and charged at her. Because of her superior taijutsu ability, she was able to avoid all of his blows. She instantly caught him off guard by punching him in the ribcage, breaking his moment of hesitation. He felt that she had probably broken a few of his ribs as he flew 50 meters backwards. The medic approached him and said, "Before I send you to the afterlife, tell me, why do you care so much about the Hokage?" She stopped for a moment, obviously lost in thought, and he confidently answered, "You wouldn't understand, because unlike you, to become Hokage is my dream." Naruto saw an opening, and he was able to get up and charge at her in spite of the pain he was feeling in his chest from some broken bones. Naruto charged a Rasengan in his hand and began to channel wind chakra into it, thinking, "It's still in the development phase, but I have to pull it off. She will see through everything else I may launch at her." Tsunade's reverie was broken when she noticed the approaching orb. With quick thinking, she chose to use a special taijutsu move to punch the ground in front of her. "Okasho!" she exclaimed as the blow caused big rocks to fall out of the ground, obstructing Naruto's path. The first rock was broken by Naruto, but he was halted by the second. His method became unstable and eventually dispersed, leaving him exposed as a rock avalanche buried him. Jiraiya headed to Tsunade while Shizune swiftly pulled him out and began to heal his body. "That was overkill, Tsunade. You didn't need to go all out against a Chunin," Jiraiya replied. "It's your own damn fault, Jiraiya. Why did you teach him the Rasengan, a move he obviously can't master at his age? That's why he sprouts shit about the being Hokage," replied Tsunade. "That wasn't Rasengan, you old woman, that was my elemental version of it. I just mastered the Rasengan last month. I only started training to add elemental chakra to it since yesterday. Just give me 3 days and I'll master the new one," Naruto, who had been healed by Shizune, said as he joined them at that precise moment. Tsunade was so taken aback by the revelation that Naruto had already mastered the Rasengan and was attempting to imbue it with elemental chakra. a feat that even the Yondaime, who created it, had not been able to accomplish, that she forgot he had just called her an old woman. A man never retracts his words, Gaki, she smirked and continued, want to place a wager? He inquired, what kind of bet? If you manage to complete that jutsu of yours you win. I'll even let you 5 days to do it. If you can't complete it after that time then you will admit that the position of Hokage is shit and then you with Jiraiya will leave me alone, she added. What happens if I win? He asked. She looked at him and said, then I'll come with you, I will even give you this. Jiraiya and Shizune gasped. Naruto took the wager and they all went off into the night after Jiraiya gave him the rundown on the necklace's origins. Time lapse. 4 days later there were multiple holes visible in the surrounding rocks, trees, and ground as Naruto trained close to the town. Shizune had made the decision to stick by him in case he got hurt while training. Tsunade and Jiraiya were in town, probably having a drink in a bar right now. Like her mentor, Shizune was an excellent medic with a kind and compassionate demeanor. It was nice for Naruto to spend time with her. It was like having a sister he never had. He let out a sigh, realizing that his attempt to blend wind chakra with his Rasengan had failed once more. Naruto.kun, may I be of any assistance to you? Inquired the brunette. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can make a perfect Rasengan and my control over wind chakra is top-notch, replied a frustrated Naruto. In an attempt to provide him with a medical or scientific explanation for his issue, she responded, I see what you mean, it's like you're trying to look left and right at the same time. Maybe your brain is just not supposed to work that way. Naruto's eyes grew wide at her comment. The fix was so easy he didn't even think to ask. He made a swarm of cage buncheons and resumed training after saying, you rock, nay. Chan. How could I not think about it, thank you so much. Shizune grinned and kept watching over him, not sure what she had done to make him feel better. That evening, in the hotel room Shizune had just healed Naruto when she returned. He practiced until his hands were burned by chakra and he used so much chakra that he passed out. She was a little disappointed that he would lose the bet, but she assumed he would be gone for at least 2 days. Tsunade returned just as she was about to go take a shower. She inquired as to whether she intended to accept the intriguing bargain Orochimaru put forth. She attempted to intimidate Tsunade into not betraying the leaf after observing her hesitation. The blonde medic's actions only infuriated her, as she delivered a forceful blow to her trainee's abdomen, rendering her unconscious. The following morning Naruto discovered he was back in the hotel when he awoke. When he saw Shizune lying on the floor, unconscious, he instantly leapt out of the bed. She became frightened when he succeeded in waking her up, believing it was too late to prevent her master from traveling to Orochimaru. When Naruto informed her that she had only brought him back to the hotel a few hours earlier, she felt relieved. Jiraiya stopped her just as she was about to bolt out of the windowed room. Tsunade had drugged him, probably to keep him from trailing her to Orochimaru. Shizune revealed to them everything. Orochimaru asked Tsunade to heal a person for him, and in return, he promised to resurrect the 2 people Tsunade had lost in the last battle. They made the decision to go to the location where Tsunade and Orochimaru were meant to meet. Alongside Tsunade, when Tsunade arrived at the location of their previous meeting with Orochimaru and his goon, the snake was waiting for her. Orochimaru asked, have you come to accept my offer, Tsunade? Tsunade closed her eyes, and she saw flashes of her fiancé's and her younger brother's faces. No, I refuse. I may not have always held Konoha in high regard, but I will never betray what my brother and my fiancé died for. Now I will kill you for even trying to make that deal with me, she said after taking a deep breath and opening her eyes. When she was done, she punched a wall behind her, breaking it into dust as though it were made of glass. Come to think of it, we never seriously fought against each other in the past, Orochimaru replied. Just as Orochimaru was about to charge, Kabuto, his subordinate, interrupted him. He was tracking Shizune and saw that she was heading in that direction, but he was concerned about the people accompanying her. He alerted his master to the impending disruption, and when they attempted to escape, a furious Tsunade pursued them. When Naruto and the others arrived a short while later, they discovered the harm that Tsunade had caused and concluded that she had rejected the deal, to which Orochimaru had not taken well. Then they trailed after her. Tanzaku Gai peripherals fighting a fellow Sannin and his assistant at the same time was wearing Tsunade out. It turned out to be much more difficult than she had anticipated. When Orochimaru realized they had wasted too much time, he took advantage of Tsunade's fear of blood, a weakness, to render her helpless. The sight of blood instantly paralyzed her, and she quickly took multiple hits. A smoke bomb was thrown between them just as they were ready to remove her. Naruto and his group were all around Tsunade when the smoke cleared. Upon seeing the two men who had thwarted his invasion plan, Orochimaru gritted his teeth. The fox brat and the toad sage, his former teammates. Tsunade, who had a blood phobia, was still in shock as Shizune began to heal her master right away. Jiraiya was also unprepared for battle, as the medication Tsunade had given him continued to impair his movements. Naruto was fully aware that he was the only person who supported him. Kukuku. Nice seeing you again so soon, Jiraiya, and you must be the Kyuubi brat. Uzumaki Naruto, it is really nice to finally meet you. Began Orochimaru. Jiraiya said, Naruto, you take the assistant, I'll handle Orochimaru, observing Shizune continuing to tend to her master. Shizune covers as soon as your master is better. Without delay, Orochimaru called forth two enormous snakes. He ascended onto the first one, while Kabuto assumed control of the second. When Jiraiya saw this, he attempted to summon his battle frog as well, but he was unable to do so due to improper chakra usage. You are still an idiot, Jiraiya. Well, I guess this is Tsunade's work since even you wouldn't mess up that kind of jutsu. Taunted Orochimaru. After witnessing his master being insulted, Naruto made the decision to join the fight and used hand signals. He chanted, Ninpo. Kachiyose no jutsu, and slammed his hands on the ground. Suddenly, two enormous dragons materialized. The first was the fire dragon Hiryu, which he had already called upon in the course of the Chunin examinations. The second one was unknown to him. Its body was a very long, green serpentine with large claws and short limbs. Its eyes were piercing red and it had two long horns on top of its head. It is an honor to be summoned again, Naruto. Sama, Hiryu replied. The second summoner said, Hello, Naruto. Sama. My name is Sharon, and I'm a venom dragon. How may we serve you? Naruto replied, pointing to Orochimaru and Kabuto, I need you to help me and my master in defeating our enemies on top of those two snakes right there. Jiraiya followed Sharon, while Naruto leapt behind Hiryu. Tengaku Guy's outskirts remembering that the blonde could also summon, Orochimaru cursed as the smoke from Naruto's summoning technique cleared. When Naruto revealed not one, but two enormous dragons, mythological animals long thought extinct, Tsunade and Shizune were astounded. Hiryu was a flying fire dragon that Naruto was riding atop. They were above Tsunade and Shizune's position in the sky. Jiraiya, the second summon of Naruto, the crawling venom dragon, was on the ground in front of Tsunade and her apprentice. Sharon's long body surrounded Jiraiya. Alongside Naruto immediately used his chakra storage seal because summoning two enormous dragons did drain him of a lot of energy. He spoke to his dragon as soon as he felt his reserves rise once more. Okay. Looks like Arrow. Sennin is in position as well. Hiryu, let's try some fireball against them first, we'll try to separate them and then engage the silver-haired one. Said Naruto to the dragon. As he dove toward Orochimaru and Kabuto on the ground, the fire dragon said, Very well, Naruto. Sama, hang on tight please, we're going down. Hiryu slowed their pace as they approached his firing range, then took a few deep breaths to prime himself for his attack. The area between Orochimaru and Kabuto was the target of the fire dragon's massive fireball. Both Kabuto and Orochimaru ducked as the fireball struck the earth, heading in separate directions. Naruto deduced that Hiryu's fireballs would have a difficult time hitting the summoned snakes because of their swift evasion movements. Cover me, Kabuto, I'll go finish Jiraiya and Tsunade while they're still not at 100%, Orochimaru replied. Hi Orochimaru. Sama. Kabuto said, positioning himself and his snake mount between his master and Naruto's dragon form as it approached. Naruto grinned, realizing that the first part of his plan had been completed when he saw Orochimaru and his snake forms retreating. Now that he had his full attention on Kabuto, he gave the order for Hiryu to keep bombing their target from above. Even though he was carrying out his master's orders, Kabuto cursed at the blonde as he was dragged farther and farther away from Orochimaru's side. Originally, he only intended to serve as a temporary diversion for Naruto while his master finished off the other group. However, he was always prepared to help him should fighting two other Sannin prove to be too difficult. He was now pulled too far away from Orochimaru to be of any assistance. Alongside Jiraiya addressed the dragon that Naruto had called upon for help, saying, Naruto did his job, Orochimaru is coming alone this way. Prepare yourself, Sharon, I'm counting on you. I still can't mold my chakra properly thanks to Tsunade's drug in my system. Very well, Jiraiya. Dono, I shall assist you in fighting off enemies of Naruto. Sama. My abilities allow me to throw acid or poison blasts, My claws are coated with a very strong neurotoxic agent that can kill an average human in seconds, and my scales are pretty resilient to any elemental or physical attacks, replied Sharon. The dragon's prowess impressed Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune. But before they could talk any more about the dragon's abilities, Orochimaru rode in on his enormous summon of a snake. Still trying to play the hero and protect Tsunade, Jiraiya. You are both so pathetic, it disgusts me that people would put us three on the same level. No matter, after today I will be the only one of us to stay alive. Orochimaru replied. Jiraiya nodded to Shizune, who then abruptly grabbed her master and ran out of the area, leaving Orochimaru and Jiraiya by themselves. Upon witnessing this, Orochimaru attempted to halt their retreat, but was forced to halt in order to evade Sharon's approaching acid blast. Although the attack failed, the damage it caused, melting concrete rock as if it hadn't happened, was evident to all when it hit the ground. When Sharon saw this, Jiraiya attempted to assist with his limited abilities. Sharon charged the air in his lungs to get ready for another acid blast directed at Orochimaru. As the acid spray emerged from the dragon's mouth, Jiraiya called his jutsu, Doden, Yomi no Yuma, using hand signals. Orochimaru felt the ground tremble just as he was about to dodge another acid blast. Upon looking down, he saw that the ground had turned into a swamp. Orochimaru cursed and left his snake behind after realizing that his summon was trapped and that acid was about to spray them. This time, the creature was struck, and the acid quickly killed it by spreading throughout its entire body. Orochimaru used hand signals as he landed before crouching and calling out his jutsu, Mandara no Jin. He opened his mouth and thousands of snakes slithered out, heading toward Jiraiya. As the swarm of snakes got closer to Jiraiya's position, they transformed into a massive living wave. Once they were sufficiently close together, they all opened their mouths to reveal a sword tip inside. Jiraiya knew that the attack would continue until it reached Tsunade and Shizune if he attempted to dodge it. He was attempting to think of a jutsu to block the approaching attack when Sharon moved to surround him and cover the toad sage with his own body. The blow struck them so forcefully that Jiraiya felt the earth tremble all around him. Sharon shifted so Jiraiya could exit when the ground stopped trembling. Jiraiya's eyes widened at what he saw. The snakes had vanished, but not before leaving a gift. Sharon was bleeding heavily, and his body was covered in stab wounds from the swords they were carrying. The dragon, about to dispel himself, said, "I'm glad you're alright, Jiraiya. Dono, I'm sorry I cannot help you further though." "That's quite alright, Sharon, you did more than enough. It seems Tsunade's drug effects on my body finally wore off. I have full control again on my chakra. Thanks a lot for your assistance. I will tell my student that you fought admirably. You can go back now," replied Jiraiya as Sharon dispelled himself after bowing forehead. When Jiraiya faced Orochimaru, Tsunade was still recuperating from her previous battle. Both of them had lost their summon protection and were prepared for a rematch. Alongside Naruto at the moment, Naruto and Kabuto were at a standstill. Naruto was unable to hit Kabuto and his snake due to their superior speed, and Kabuto was unable to reach Naruto and his dragon because of their ability to fly. They could still hear the sounds of Jiraiya and Orochimaru fighting, and when they witnessed the snake summon die from being struck by the other dragon, Kabuto even began to worry for his master. In an attempt to surprise the unskilled Chunin, he made the decision to try a different approach. Kabuto awaited Naruto's return before using hand signals. "Kaden, Kasumi Enbu no Jutsu," he exclaimed, scattering a thick cloud of flaming ashes all around them. While Hiryu was unharmed by the opponent's jutsu, Naruto was forced to lower his guard in order to preserve his airways, which allowed Kabuto to get the necessary opening. "Senei Jashu," Kabuto cried as he unleashed another jutsu on the blonde, launching snakes at Naruto that caught him and threw him off his dragon. The ashes in the air made it difficult for Naruto to breathe even after he fell hard to the ground. Just as Kabuto was about to charge at Naruto to finish him, he heard someone unleash a jutsu on them, calling out, "Dokujiri." A thick cloud of smoke suddenly surrounded him. The snake was unable to leap out of the cloud as quickly as he could. The voice calling the technique caught Kabuto's attention, and he realized it was Tsunade's helper. During their battle, they had unintentionally come across Tsunade and her apprentice. His snake passed out and collapsed to the ground. Being a medic himself, he knew that her prior attack had to have been caused by poison. Shizune saw that Naruto was still unconscious, so she braced herself for another blow and sent another Dokujiri toward Kabuto. Shizune's eyes expanded as she realized too late where Kabuto was when the smoke cleared and he was nowhere to be seen. As he went to kick Shizune to the side, Kabuto leapt out of the ground and used his chakra scalpel to sever the nerves in her legs, effectively stopping her from moving. He made the decision to kill Tsunade right away after noticing that she was undefended and would not have time to gather her strength and composure. He was about to hit the still motionless Tsunade when Naruto kicked him out of the way. Still gasping, Naruto asked, "Are you alright, Tsunade, Bakken?" Feelings of her younger brother and fiancé passing away filled Tsunade's mind. "Naruto, what are you doing? He is too strong for you, and you have barely any chakra left. You must flee, leave me alone here and save yourself," she exclaimed. Kabuto stood up and charged towards them, saying, "Don't worry, none of you will leave this place alive." However, he had to retreat after Hiryu landed in front of him, preventing him from continuing in that direction. Naruto addressed his dragon, saying, "Hiryu, can you stall him for a bit? I need some time to prepare my next move." The dragon nodded, spreading his great wings to keep Kabuto from seeing Naruto get ready for his attack and launching fireballs at him while remaining on the ground to protect his master and Tsunade. Tsunade begged Naruto to leave her and save himself, but he ignored her and made the single-hand gesture, Kage Bunshin, as his clone materialized. Then he smiled at Tsunade, turning his head to face her. Convincingly, he charged a perfect Rasengan while his clone channeled wind chakra in the chakra orb, saying, "Don't worry, Ba-chan, until I become Hokage I will never die." He ordered his dragon to retreat as he ran behind Hiryu, who was still obstructing Kabuto. "Now Hiryu," he exclaimed, watching as the dragon leapt into the air and then dispelled himself after expended most of his chakra on firing non-stop at Kabuto. Kabuto chose to confront the attack head on after realizing it was too late to retreat. He used hand signals and a jutsu, calling out, "Kacheose, Rashomon," as he put his hands on the ground. Kabuto was crouching behind a massive structure that rose up out of the ground in the shape of an enormous door covered in demonic markings. Additionally, Naruto made the decision to use his new technique and launched it against the odd structure in front of him. As he slammed his jutsu against the door, he exclaimed, "Futon! Rasengan!" An enormous flash blinded everyone as Naruto's jutsu touched the Rashomon, and then there was an explosion. Kabuto was caught off guard as Naruto's Rasengan expanded upon impact and totally destroyed the defensive structure before continuing on its original path behind it and dragging him along. After 50 meters, it came to a stop against a massive rock. Kabuto seemed to be crushed against the rock that stopped the jutsu as it finally dispelled. He was bleeding profusely and had multiple cuts as he lay on the ground, unconscious. Naruto did finish his jutsu in just 5 days, shocking Tsunade. The outcomes were astounding. Based on the way it destroyed the Rashomon, this Rasengan had to be 10 times more potent than the first one. After taking a look at the outcomes of his first successful attempt to create the wind version of the Rasengan, Naruto turned to face Tsunade and grinned, saying, "I win the bet, Ba-chan." He then collapsed to the ground, exhausted from chakra use. After quickly approaching him to make sure he was okay, Tsunade removed her pendant and put it around Naruto's neck. She noticed that after seeing blood earlier, she had also at last stopped shaking as a result of her crisis. Tsunade took Naruto's unconscious body in her arms and gave it a hug while crying. "Yes, you win, Naruto. It seems I'm finally free of my past and from my old demons too," Tsunade said. Alongside Jiraiya, when they noticed the flash of Naruto's jutsu, both Sannin were engaged in a high taijutsu battle. When they saw the harm that jutsu had caused, their eyes grew wide. Jiraiya thought, "Looks like Naruto finally did it, I knew he would." To think that he could go through the Rashomon, even if it was a low version of the true Rashomon. Jiraiya has recovered from whatever Tsunade did to him, and Tsunade herself looks like she's back in business as well. It's a shame I couldn't get her to heal Kimimaro-kun for me. I will have to go with the original plan and get Sasuke-kun after all. Orochimaru thought about it. As Orochimaru finished thinking, he managed to catch a still unfocused Jiraiya off guard and temporarily paralyze him. "I can't let that one get stronger either, he is already close to Kabuto's level. He could prove to be troublesome later if I let him grow further." Then, sword drawn, he charged towards Naruto and Tsunade. Alongside Tsunade, Tsunade was tending to the small cuts Naruto had sustained all over his body when she became aware of Orochimaru's intention to kill her. She quickly pivoted to place herself in the path of the snake and Naruto, absorbing the blow rather than the blonde child. "I didn't target you. Why do you put your life on the line for him, Tsunade?" replied Orochimaru. Tsunade roared, getting to her feet and using her technique, "Because he is the future of Konoha. He is a bearer of the will of fire, and I will save him even at the cost of my life, because from now on I am the Godem Hokage of Konoha. Infuen Kai, Sozo Saisei," exclaimed Tsunade, radiating as her chakra healed all of her wounds. Now that he had expended a lot of chakra on Jiraiya and the other dragon summon, Orochimaru was at a disadvantage and took multiple hard hits from Tsunade, who had had time to heal. He chose to retreat after realizing that continuing the battle would be futile because, in addition to Tsunade's unavailability to assist him at this point, he was currently unable to match the combined firepower of two Sannin with Kabuto down. He leapt backward in the direction of Kabuto's down form and ran out of sight. Jiraiya and Shizune eventually succeeded in returning to Naruto and Tsunade after some time. Jiraiya asked Tsunade, "Are you alright?" "I'm fine. I will recover after a good rest," replied Tsunade prior to adding, "He did it, Jiraiya. He really finished what Minato started all those years ago." Jiraiya proudly looked down at his disciple and said, "Yes, I saw the result of the jutsu. His parents would be proud of him. He has the will to never give up. He is a true shinobi of Konoha, a bearer of the will of fire." When she finally said, "Let's go home," Naruto made the decision to return to Konoha by taking the circuitous route. They made the decision to slow down until they got to Konoha because none of them had truly recovered from their fight with the treacherous snake. So, on their way back to the Leaf, they made stops at all the hot springs, taverns, and gambling establishments. Jiraiya would typically vanish as soon as they got to a new town, purportedly to survey the area for any possible threats, but you could nearly always find him close to the hot springs. Tsunade simply spent her time losing money at the neighborhood casinos or went to the taverns to order their priciest steak. All that was left was for Naruto and Shizune to attempt to stop their master from acting foolishly. Everyone's reactions to the enormous doors were different when they finally returned after 2 arduous weeks in front of Konoha's main gates. With a sly smile on his face, Jiraiya was probably planning to explore the less visited part of the village. With his first A-rank mission as a Chunin completed successfully, Naruto was relieved to have returned home at last. On the other hand, it was Tsunade and Shizune's first visit to the village in over 10 years. Memories of the past and her losses rushed back at Shizune as she attempted to console her master. The Chunin standing watch at the gates were taken aback by the unexpected arrival of not one, but 2 of the fabled Sannin. They told the group that Sarutobi had been anticipating them for some time and gave them the order to head straight to the Hokage Tower as soon as possible. Office of Hokage. They all arrived in front of the Hokage's office using Shunshin, and Naruto simply kicked open the door as usual before entering before Shizune could demand a meeting with the Sandaime and his secretary. With a sly grin, Jiraiya simply followed his pupil, leaving Tsunade and Shizune dumbfounded by the obvious disregard for the shinobi no kami. Naruto burst into the office, shouting, "Hello Gigi, I'm back from my mission." "Nice to see you back, my boy. I assume the mission was a success seeing the guests you have with you," replied the elderly gentleman. Tsunade remarked, "It's been a long time, sensei," upon seeing her former instructor. Shizune continued, "It's good to be back, Hokage-sama." "Very well, I welcome you all back. Now Naruto, I know you weren't the highest ranking shinobi on this mission, but I'd like to hear your report anyway. Consider it a training as your new duties as a Chunin will have you lead your own teams in the future. You will also have to do this at some point," Sarutobi announced. Naruto was not used to being the center of attention, much less from a room full of cage-level individuals. With a smirk on their faces, the others saw that there was, in fact, something that could effectively shut up the youthful, flamboyant blonde. He was red with embarrassment. When Naruto was finally able to gather himself, he took a deep breath and began to report on the events of his mission. The encounter with Itachi and Kisame, followed by Tsunade's tracking, which brought them to Tanzagu-gai, where the final confrontation with Orochimaru and Kabuto took place. When Naruto completed his report, Orochimaru's meddling caused Sarutobi to scowl once more. He already knew that when Guy returned, Naruto would be meeting Itachi and his associate. After pausing to collect his thoughts, he turned back to face the people in front of him. "You did good, Naruto-kun. I'm very proud of you, and the mission will go on your record not as an A rank but as an S rank 1 due to the interference of 2 S-class missing shinobi of our village. Tsunade, as you already know, I am stepping down. You will be the next Hokage after me and the official coronation ceremony will take place next week. We need time to get the officials to arrive in Konoha to announce it. I have a few things for you to do in the meantime. We will discuss about them in a moment. Jiraiya, I want you to investigate the group that Itachi belongs to. Their goals are obviously linked to Naruto, so I want to know more about them. You are to leave as soon as possible, but we need a report at least in a month. Tsunade and Shizune, you will both head to the hospital as soon as possible. There are still lots of injured people there waiting for treatment, and especially a group of genin and chunin who just came back yesterday after some disturbing events I will reveal to you now. Following this, Sarutobi gestured for everyone to settle in before beginning to recount the events of the previous week that culminated in their current predicament. It seems that Orochimaru sent a group of shinobi known as the Sound 4 to Konoha in an attempt to persuade Uchiha Sasuke to join him, all at the same time that he was trying to get Tsunade to join him and heal whoever he wanted her to heal. They appear to have had little trouble infiltrating the village and persuading the final surviving Uchiha to side with their master. His teammate and devoted longtime fangirl, Haruno Sakura, was spotted letting him walk freely out of the village. To be fair, the girl did attempt to stop him, but he easily knocked her out. A patrol discovered her unconscious the next morning. After that, Sarutobi paused his story for a moment to allow everyone to process what had happened thus far. While Jiraiya was wondering what the snake wanted to do with the Uchiha heir, Tsunade had to scowl at her former teammate who attempted to harm the leaf once more. Naruto didn't respond in a certain way to those happenings. He didn't particularly enjoy being around Sasuke, but he also never wanted anyone to be Orochimaru's slaves. Following a brief break, Sarutobi proceeded with the report. Sakura's testimony states that with less than a day to spare, he used the limited resources at his disposal to plan a track and pursuit mission for Sasuke and the Sound 4. There were 2 available teams, Team 9 and 10, and Aburame Shino would temporarily replace Naruto in Team 8 and Sakura in Team 9. This meant there were 3 genin teams total, each with a newly appointed Chunin to lead them. Hyuga Neji for Team 9, Nara Shikamaru for Team 10, and Aburame Shino for Team 8. At that moment, the Jonin Sensei were all preoccupied with other missions. The Sound 4 apparently had to carry Sasuke's body, which was inside a wooden box with strange markings on it, making their pace much slower than normal. Nevertheless, the track and pursuit teams managed to catch up with the fleeing group in less than a day, according to the reports. Nobody was really sure why Sasuke was in that box. By pure happenstance, the Konoha's forces even managed to get in touch with the Suna team that competed in the Chunin exams. In an act of mutual respect, the Suna team accompanied them in their quest to retrieve the Uchiha. They were able to eliminate the Sound 4 members thanks to their superior firepower and numerical advantage. But just as they were going to take out the box holding Uchiha Sasuke's body, it unexpectedly opened, revealing a completely different Sasuke. Compared to what they could recall about him, he was much stronger and quicker. All the teams decided to split up to neutralize the 4 bodyguards, so Team 8 was the only team around him when the box opened, and they were unable to stop him from leaving. The last battle took place in the Valley of the End, at the boundaries between Rice Country and Fire, with Sasuke managing to first render the Taken aback Hinata and Kiba unconscious. When Shino faced off against his Team 7 partner, Sasuke used a lightning jutsu that left everyone in the room shaking their heads, knowing exactly who had taught him. As a result, Shino suffered a critical injury. In the end, Sasuke fled into Rice Country, beyond the reach of the Konoha forces. Shino was the rookie who required the greatest care as the other players were escorted back to Konoha, some with more injuries than the others. After concluding the report, Sarutobi asked Tsunade and Shizune to go to the hospital and assume leadership there. After that, he fired Jiraiya and Naruto. Konoha Medical Center Naruto made the decision to accompany Tsunade and Shizune to the hospital, assuming that his team and the majority of his allies would be present. Jiraiya chose to travel in his own direction, but he went in the direction of Konoha's hot springs. Upon arriving at the hospital, Tsunade was recognized by all members of the medical staff right away. She made the decision to go to the central office and arrange her work schedule for the next few days with Shizune from there. Naruto went up to the receptionist and requested the rookies' rooms, especially those of his teammates. It turns out that the majority of the rookies were safe and only suffered minor injuries because of Gaara's intervention and the help of his siblings. Shino was the only one who actually required Tsunade's assistance. Even though his condition had stabilized, he still required urgent care. Naruto was relieved to see Gaara again because it appeared that he and his family had gotten along much better since their previous meeting. Even though Gaara claimed he didn't need to, stating that Suna was Konoha's ally, he nevertheless thanks them all for their assistance. Kurenai was relieved to see that her team was doing well when the Jonin Sensei also began to arrive. Despite his sorrowful expression, Kakashi acknowledged that he had failed as a teacher to his team. In the process of betraying the leaf, his student seriously hurt a teammate. He went to see Shino and then left without saying anything to anyone else, despite Guy and Asuma's best efforts to cheer him up. When Naruto realized that everyone was safe and secure, he made the decision to head back home. The apartment of Naruto had trouble sleeping that night. He reflected on the previous events, including his encounter with Itachi and Kisame, his altercation with Kabuto, and how, had it not been for Tsunade, Orochimaru nearly killed him. "You can't sleep, Naru-kun?" Natsuki inquired via their connection. "I was thinking about my dream Na-chan. To become the Hokage has always been my dream, even before I knew that my father was the fourth," replied Naruto. A little taken aback by her friend's remarks, Natsuki inquired, "What about it? Is it not your dream anymore?" "It's not that, I still want to become Hokage, the best there ever was. I just can't help but feel that I'm not strong enough. I need to become much more stronger than this if I want to be able to protect my precious one. The day I finally find a way to free you, I don't want to be a burden to you. You are the most powerful Biju, but there's a man with powers strong enough to control you. I can't let this happen, I won't let this happen," declared Naruto. "So that's what on your mind and keep you from sleeping. Listen to me. You will never be a burden to me. There is no risk of that man ever using his powers to control me again either. When I was forced out of your mother, I was weak and unprepared. That's how he could surprise me. I will not fall for the same attack twice, believe me," he replied to her. "Okay, I believe you, but I still want to become stronger. You may feel that I'm strong enough as I am, but I can't help but feel the need to know that not only you but everyone that's precious to me is safe too," Naruto stated with conviction. "Then there is only one way, you have to train. It may be a good idea to distance yourself from Konoha, from your life as a ninja for a while. You've come a long way in your mastery over your bloodline, but there is still more to be done. If you stay here you will be constantly interrupted in your training to become stronger," Natsuki pondered. "But where should I go? There are some strong people out there who want my head, and now that Sasuke has gone to Orochimaru, only God knows what the snake is doing with his new toy. They both pretty hate my guts," replied Naruto. Natsuki said to them as they went to bed, "We will think about it later, try to get some sleep for now. There's still some time before you have to make a decision." Hokage office. After a month has passed since that evening, when Naruto swore he would get stronger in order to protect his loved ones. Tsunade assumed command and became the 5th Hokage during that period. By firing the other two, Sarutobi became her only advisor, and Danzo used his youth centers to find a way around to integrate the civilian council. Tsunade was presently seated behind the Hokage desk, and Jiraiya had returned this morning from his investigative mission. Tsunade had called Naruto to her office to hear Jiraiya's news, since it also concerned him. When Naruto entered the room, Sarutobi was also there, but he didn't know why he was there. Tsunade closed the room and gestured for Jiraiya to begin writing his report. "From what I could gather with my spies, it looks like there is an organization called Akatsuki whose goal is to gather all the Biju. For what objective I don't know yet. They are composed of S-rank missing ninja from all villages with no distinction. I can only say so far that we know Uchiha Itachi from the Leaf and Hoshigaki Kisame from Kiri are active members, while Orochimaru was at one time a member as well but decided to leave them," established Jiraiya. "Now about our friend the snake. It seems he managed to successfully open the door to immortality. By a complex process, he is able to transfer his soul into the body of a host. Then he takes total control of that body and the soul of the previous host simply vanishes as a result. My guess is that he wanted Tsunade to heal whoever he had planned to take as a host in the event that he couldn't get the Uchiha," Jiraiya continued. "According to my spies, both sides require long and complex preparations in order to perform what they intend to do. Therefore my estimation is that we have a 3-year preparation time in front of us before any side decides to move again," finished Jiraiya. Naruto asked, "Did he, took Sasuke's body?" It seems the Uchiha did not arrive on time and Orochimaru had to transfer into another body in the meantime. So it's safe to say that he too has 3 years before him," replied Jiraiya. "That's also one of the reasons we are all here today, Naruto," Tsunade replied. "Seeing what's ahead of you in the future, we feel it is essential that you two prepare for the future," Sarutobi concluded. "Consequently you will become my full-time apprentice for the 3 years to come. I will take you out of the village and will train you to become Konoha's best during that time. I have already informed Kurenai about this and you will be placed on the reserved list from Konoha's ninja during that time," finished Jiraiya. Naruto's eyes grew wide at everything. It was ideal that he would be able to carry out the plan he and Natsuki had discussed. Even though it seemed like he had 3 years of peace from his worst enemies, he would not have to constantly worry about others coming to harm him with Jiraiya by his side. Naruto smirked and asked, "When do we leave?" "We leave tomorrow at dawn. Go pack and take a good look at the village. You won't be see it again for quite some time after that," replied Jiraiya. Naruto went to hug Tsunade and Sarutobi and said, I'm going to miss you Gigi, Chan. Tsunade grinned and said, we, LL miss you too, brat. I hope the pervert will have taught you how to properly address your superiors when you return. Sarutobi laughed. You are my loved ones, not my superiors, as he eventually departed, never to be seen in Konoha again for the following 3 years, said Naruto. The Hokage office in Konoha. It was late morning, and Tsunade was working on some paperwork at her desk in her office. She was working from a stack of documents that her assistant, Shizune, had brought in the day before. She glanced at the picture on her desk while taking a break from what she was doing. It was a photo taken when Jiraiya and Naruto were escorting her back to Konoha, prior to her accepting the position of Hokage. It dawned on her that Naruto had already been gone for 3 years, along with Jiraiya, to hone his abilities. For the first year, the pervert had sent her regular updates on the blonde's development, but then it had stopped for no apparent reason. After that, it had been 2 long years before she heard anything more about them. They would return the following month, according to a brief letter she received last month. Jiraiya and Naruto were supposed to return to Konoha this week. Based on their letter, she was unaware of Naruto's present level of proficiency, though, as Jiraiya had only mentioned in his first year letters that he was teaching Naruto ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, and fundamental genjutsu. Tsunade reasoned that as soon as Naruto returned, she would have to set up an exam to determine his actual skill level. The 2 empty bottles of sake behind her were probably the cause of her sudden fatigue. With a smile on her face, she closed her eyes slowly and drifted off to sleep, remembering her last surviving blood relative. Main gates of Konoha 2 Chunin were sitting at the checkpoint at the main gate as the sun was high in the sky. It was a slow day. Since this morning, the only people who had passed through the gate were the regular merchants and the sporadic Anbu patrols. Suddenly, 2 figures could be seen slowly approaching the village from a distance on the horizon. Kotetsu and Izumo were able to finally recognize one of the 2 shadows as Jiraiya the Toad Sage as they got closer, but the other one had a strange outfit and a white mask with a fox design on it. No one seemed overly concerned about allowing the mysterious man inside, given that the legendary Jiraiya was escorting him. The 2 men, probably not wanting to deal with curiosity just yet, hurried through the gate and headed toward the Hokage Tower via the rooftops. Even Shinobi had difficulty seeing the 2 white and gray blurs moving at top speed atop the buildings, which was all that the general public could see. They proceeded without stopping and soon found themselves at the base of the Hokage Tower. Tower of Hokage Shizune was at her desk in front of the door when the 2 men approached Tsunade's office. It took her some time to notice them. When she eventually realized that both men had arrived, she recognized Jiraiya right away, but she couldn't place the other man. After granting them entry to her master's office and stating that she was presently working on some unimportant paperwork, she trailed behind them into the building. Office of Hokage. Upon entering, the group realized that Tsunade was, in fact, occupied with unimportant tasks. The woman was genuinely dozing off. 2 empty sake bottles could be seen behind her, and she was drooling all over the paperwork she was meant to fill. Just as Shizune turned to go wake her master, Jiraiya placed a hand on her shoulder and motioned for her to wait. The blonde woman was then attempted to be woken up by the second man by giving her a shoulder shake. Shizune was already fearing the worst for the stranger when he did this, but what she saw stunned her. Tsunade unleashed one of her chakra-powered punches at him. He simply used his free hand to deflect Tsunade's punch when it was about to hit his face, not even flinching in fear. When Tsunade finally woke up, she scowled at the man in front of her and failed to recognize him. She also failed to notice Jiraiya or her assistant standing behind him. The blonde woman, clearly not enjoying her wake up call, roared, "Who the hell are you? I've never seen you before. You've got some guts to come in here and touch the leader of this village in such a rude way." The man wearing the mask chuckled, but before Tsunade could say anything more, he made up his mind to speak. He mockingly said, "I'm hurt, I've only been gone for 3 years and you already forgot all about me, Chan?" before removing his mask. When Tsunade finally caught a glimpse of Jiraiya from behind, she realized that the man who had been acting extremely rudely toward her for the past 3 years could only be one person. "Naruto!" was exclaimed from both sides of the blonde as Tsunade and Shizune tackled him into a massive embrace. Naruto grinned and said, "I'm glad you did not forget about me, but could you please let go? It's kind of hard to breathe like this." With a flushed face, the 2 women let go of him right away. When they finally had the chance to look at him, they saw that he had changed significantly over the previous 3 years, but Jiraiya had remained largely unchanged. Naruto had grown to be nearly as tall as Jiraiya. His bangs dropped to either side of his face as his hair grew longer. He wore a black sash on his white hakama, a white zori with black tabi socks, and a white jacket with a high collar. Other than what appeared to be a small katana or wakizashi hanging on his sash, he didn't appear to be carrying any weapons. In the course of those 3 years, Naruto transformed into what could only be described as a blonde Adonis, leaving the two women in the room to question whether continuing to play the roles of mother and sister to the young man in front of them was still a good idea. Tsunade spoke first after the meeting's initial shock subsided. "Naruto, Jiraiya, why did you only contacted me once in the last 2 years?" she asked. Before Jiraiya could say anything, Naruto said, "Well, let's just say that training was crazy and some other things too prevented us from contacting you more." After a strange exchange of looks between the master and disciple, Jiraiya simply shrugged and allowed his pupil to continue. Tsunade was aware of this, but she decided to overlook it for the time being. While Tsunade was growing angrier by the second at the constant use of that nickname, Naruto grinned and said, "Anyway, I've been gone for a long time now and I can't wait to start taking on missions again, Ba-chan. Well, before that I need to know more about your current level of skill, Naruto. I was actually thinking about scheduling you a test in order to observe your level as soon as you get back to Konoha," replied the Hokage. Naruto asked, "That's fine, what do you have in mind?" She asked her former teammate, "What's his general level of skill right now according to you, Jiraiya?" The toad wisely replied in a cryptic manner, "Well, I would say definitely higher than Jonin, but other than that you will have to test him in each field to know for sure." Tsunade sensed that Jiraiya's evasive response was telling her something again, so she decided to follow up with more questions. "Alright then, it seems you're still lucky as ever, Naruto. I know the perfect people to test you and most of them are available this week. I will let you rest for the rest of the day, then tomorrow morning you will come to the stadium in order to get tested by them," Tsunade declared. After receiving Tsunade's nod, Naruto said, "Very well, if that's all, I'd like to go rest for my test tomorrow then." He then departed her office with a shunshin. "I'm heading to Tsunade, I'll see you at the stadium tomorrow," Jiraiya said as he departed in the same way. Thought Tsunade, as she went back to her paperwork and got ready to make the summons for the people who would test Naruto. "There's definitely something going on that those two didn't tell me. We'll know more after the test tomorrow." The apartment of Naruto. When Naruto went to bed this evening, he went straight to his mindscape. A red blur tackled him to the ground as soon as he arrived. Natsuki inquired, "So how does it feel to finally be back home, Naru-kun?" "I guess it feels okay. I thought I would miss the village more, but that wasn't the case," he responded. "Do you really plan to not tell anyone about your project?" she went on. Naruto firmly stated, "Yes, they would try to stop me if I told them, and I cannot let that happen." With evident concern for him, she answered, "Please just be careful, I don't want you to get into troubles over this." They walked into her mansion, and he reassured her, "Everything will be fine, don't worry Na-chan, let's go back inside." Konoha Stadium. Naruto arrived at the stadium at 9 in the morning. That reminded him of the first time he visited for the Chunin exam finals. This got him wondering what the rest of the world was up to these days. Yesterday, he left right away to rest at home and missed the chance to catch up with anyone. His eyes grew wide as he entered the arena and looked around at the seating area. Apparently, word had gotten out about his return and the tests that followed. Many well-known faces could be seen in the stands. He and Sasuke were the only rookies present. Surprisingly, Temari of the Sand was also present. He also noticed Asuma and Anko. His Gigi was there too, holding what looked like his grandson. He identified the final group of individuals as the Konoha Council. Tsunade finally showed up, followed closely by Shizune and Jiraiya. He chose to keep his mask on for the duration of the fight and moved cautiously toward the arena's center. Cage box. Though the presence of the council made her wonder how they learned of the event so quickly, Tsunade was surprised to see so many people in the spectator seats and decided to ignore it. Tsunade spoke, receiving a nod from the still-masked Naruto. "Uzumaki Naruto, you have been summoned here today to be tested on every field of the ninja arts before I can safely put you back on the active list of Konoha shinobi. Your opponents for today's test will be Maeda Gai for Taijutsu, Yuhi Kurenai for Genjutsu, Azuki Yugo for Kenjutsu, and finally Hitaki Kakashi for Ninjutsu. Any objection?" she asked him while maintaining his silence. The Godem said, "Very well then, let's begin." Area for spectators. The onlookers were presently debating the impending bouts. "I can't believe that Naruto gets to fight with our most powerful shinobi in each of the shinobi arts," began Choji. "He looks nothing like the old Naruto with those new clothes," Ino replied. Shikamaru continued, "Troublesome. I wonder how he will fare against Guy Sensei," Lee replied. "I find that short katana of his fascinating," Tenten remarked, examining his weapon. "It will be interesting to see what his training under Asanin gave him," Neji reflected. "There is no way he can beat any of his opponents, and especially Kakashi-sensei with his Sharingan," said Sakura. With the knowledge that Naruto should never be taken lightly, Shino, Kiba, Tamari, and Hinata made the decision to say nothing. While waiting for his opponents to show up, Naruto stood in the middle of the arena. Abruptly, a Shunshin materialized before him, revealing one Shiranui Genma. "As you can guess, I'll proctor again for the duration of your test," declared Genma. This time, 4 more Shunshin surfaced in the contestant waiting area. All of Naruto's opponents were prepared for battle, having on their ninja gear. Guy emerged first, heading toward the middle of the arena to meet Naruto and Genma. Uzumaki Naruto vs Maida Guy. Guy gave his opponent the "nice guy" pose as he approached Naruto and Genma, then motioned to the referee that he was ready to begin. Genma was finally able to start the match after Naruto nodded to him as well. Naruto instantly launched his signature Kitsune Yurei at his opponent, but Guy easily blocked him and was able to determine which illusion was real and which wasn't. As he called it Konoha Senpu, Guy struck Naruto with a strong spinning kick before he could backpedal. Guy was ready to charge at him when Naruto raised his hand and asked to wait. Guy nodded and changed his direction. As expected of Maida Guy, Konoha's taijutsu specialist. "I'm sorry I underestimated you, it won't happen again. Just give me a second please," Naruto said with respect. Then, before moving a short distance in the direction of the audience, Naruto removed his mask. As he appeared to be hiding his identity, a few women gasped in shock among the onlookers. At that point, Naruto began to carefully remove his vest to reveal that he had nothing on underneath. Upon observing his actions, all the women in the stadium began to flush. Upon closer inspection, they discovered that he was extremely muscular without being gargantuan, exhibiting the ideal blend of strength and agility. This also displayed the various tattoos he had on his upper body. Most people were already aware of the first 2, but it appeared he had added a new one, which was situated directly above his heart. The tattoo of his dragon summoning contract was the first mark on his left forearm. The fox mark was the second on his right biceps, and the final mark, which was placed over his heart, was a small circle with 3 smaller, triangular shaped marks inside that resembled commas. Finally, Naruto removed the katana from his hips and set it, along with his mask and vest, in a secure location on the ground before turning to face the arena's center once more. Upon arriving, he performed a single hand gesture and dubbed his method Futon. Muga no Kyoji. Genma and Guy began to feel uneasy and heavy in the air, as if someone had placed extra weights on top of their clothing. In addition, the strange tattoo covering Naruto's heart changed, the circle vanished, leaving just the 3 coma survivors, and even the onlookers sensed the temperature in the area rising. Then, thanking Guy for his patience, Naruto gave a bow to indicate that he was ready. The 2 fighters went back to trading blows in a competitive taijutsu bout. Naruto decided to switch up his approach and just try to block Guy's moves while circling his adversary. The battle continued in this manner for a number of minutes, but the more seasoned shinobi in the crowd believed that whatever Naruto had done earlier had worked because he was growing faster than Guy and was able to counterattack him more and more. The 2 parted ways after yet another frenzied exchange. While Naruto seemed to be doing just fine, Guy could be seen panting and struggling to catch his breath. "How did you do this, Naruto? You seem so much faster than in the beginning of our fight, my youthful opponent," asked a perplexed Guy. "Now that would be telling, wouldn't it? I may be convinced to tell you after our fight if you defeat me, Guy-san," replied Naruto with a smirk. When Guy answered in his ever pleasant nice guy pose, those in the stands who knew about it widened their eyes. Guy exclaimed, "Hachiman Tonku, Kai," as chakra radiated from his body. Then, with godlike speed, he charged at Naruto, kicking up dust in his wake. The taijutsu exchange continued, but this time Naruto was under constant pressure and took several very strong blows before never being able to counterattack his opponent. Naruto made the decision to use more of his powers and take a moment to fall back, realizing that he had to somehow alter the course of this fight. As he closed his eyes and introduced his next technique, Futon. "Seiki Kanpatsu no Kiwami," Naruto said, "so that's the ultimate form of your Gakken taijutsu style. I'm deeply impressed, but let me show you one of the ultimate forms of my style." His new tattoo changed once more, this time featuring a coma that vanished. Still keeping his eyes closed, he informed Guy that he was prepared. Recognizing better than to underestimate his opponent, Guy just launched another charge towards Naruto. To his utter amazement, though. The blonde had already launched his counterattack and kicked him in the sternum before his punch had even traveled halfway to Naruto's face. Guy was down and struggling to even catch his breath, let alone get up, as their combined speed had increased to such an extent that the counter had done its job. Guy stopped Naruto in his tracks by holding out his hand and indicating the end of the fight before he could further exploit his advantage. I've seen enough, Naruto. With our current level of skill, going any further would place this fight in a life or death situation, which we don't need. Your taijutsu skill is most likely close to mine, though we can't be sure. I know I didn't defeat you, but could you explain to me what those two jutsu of yours did during our fight? I'm most impressed by the second one. Even Sharingan and Byakugan wielders can't predict my moves when I open my inner the gates. The first one was impressive too. That speed bonus it gave you was surprising. Guy replied. Naruto began. I suppose there's no harm in telling you, Guy-san. No one should be able to copy or break them anyway. You are both right and wrong on my techniques. The first one didn't get me a speed boost, as you said. It is actually the opposite. It is no my speed that increased but yours that dropped. Seeing Guy frown, he continued, unaware that Guy might not have understood or believed what he was saying. What I mean by that is that while I sustained my speed, I used my jutsu to slow yours down. Muga no Kyochi is the absolute control over the wind element. What you felt in the beginning was me applying pressure to the air all around us in the arena in order to replicate the environment of a high-altitude place by releasing high quantity of my chakra in the air. As a consequence, the level of oxygen in the air decreased and every effort you made only served to tire you out faster. While I was aware of all this, and more importantly, I trained my body to work in this kind of environment. Explained Naruto to astonished viewers. As for the second move, I know that your style is great against dojutsu users, but mine had nothing to do with it. Seiki Konpatsu no Kiwami gives me the absolute understanding of the air flowing around me. I don't need to see, hear, or even smell my opponent. In the field of my jutsu, I am able to feel any movement made by my opponent and then adjust to it. The faster or stronger my opponent is, the more damage he will receive when countered. As soon as you charged at me and moved your arm by even an inch, I knew how to counter you. Me closing my eyes is just a way to confuse or destabilize my opponents. Naruto concluded, leaving Guy and the audience gasping at the endless possibilities that his style offered, even though some had already planned to figure out how to reproduce it for their own gain, despite his claim that it was supposedly impossible to copy. That's amazing, Naruto, to think that someone so young could perform those things. You said that Seiki Konpatsu no Kiwami was one of your ultimate forms, then am I correct to assume that you have other forms of that level? Asked Guy. That's correct, Guy-san, but I'll let you and the others discover them if I ever feel like I have to use them today. Replied Naruto with a grin. Guy gave him one last, nice guy, pose, then simply smiled and walked out of the arena to join the crowd. There will be a brief break before the next fight starts, declared Genma. Konoha Stadium's grandstand section. While Naruto was enjoying a well-earned vacation, rumors circulated about his first battle with Konoha's taijutsu expert. Naturally, the shinobi who heavily rely on taijutsu, such as the Hyuga or Inuzuka, impressed the most. Hinata and Kiba were delighted for their comrade, but Neji had to concede that Naruto had once again defied fate. Despite not possessing a dojutsu, he was able to overcome his limitations and defeat the Gakken, something that even the strongest Byakugan or Sharingan users had not been able to accomplish. It was a trickier problem for Lee. Tsunade had healed him, and her return had allowed him to get back to his shinobi duties. He diligently and relentlessly trained, imitating his sensei. He began to wonder if hard work alone could bring greatness when he saw someone his age perform on par with his teacher. Sensing his student's distress, Guy, who had joined the onlookers, informed him that, despite his natural abilities, Naruto, who was thought of as a genius along with the Uchiha and Hyuga, had probably also worked very hard to get to where he is now. This lifted his spirits, and soon the two were exchanging nice guys poses and spring of youth declarations. The others were either dumbfounded by Naruto's feat of skill or silently fell on their knees. Even Sakura, who had spent the previous 3 years learning under Tsunade, was beginning to respect Naruto. She had trained with Guy and his student on a regular basis on her master's orders, honing her medical taijutsu style, and she was well aware of the potency of Guy's Gakken style. After a long break, Naruto got up to get ready for his upcoming test. Cage Box Tsunade got up as well and revealed the next section of Naruto's test while sipping a cup of sake in silence. The blonde Hokage said, "You will now be tested in your genjutsu proficiency, Naruto. Kurenai, please start the test." Just as she was ready to settle back down, Naruto interrupted. A surprisingly courteous Naruto asked, "Actually Hokage Sama, if it's not a problem I would like the next test to be on Genjutsu and Kenjutsu at the same time." Naruto called Tsunade by a polite name, so she quickly regained her composure and narrowed her eyes before continuing. "Are you implying that you won't be able to fight seriously if you're facing only one kunoichi and not two? I thought you would be more respectful about women, especially since this is your teacher that was chosen to test you," said a furious Tsunade. Maintaining his composure, Naruto bowed his head before answering. He began to receive a nod from his leader, who was fully aware of his chakra control issue. "I assure you that it is nothing like that. Surely you are aware that I never could perform the simplest genjutsu in my youth because of reasons out of my control. Well, instead of trying to fix it, I found a way around my problem. But as a consequence, my genjutsu techniques don't work like the classical ones. I have to rely on other shinobi arts to take full advantage of them, and Kenjutsu is a perfect one for that," he went on. "Finally, as you said, Kurenai Sensei is my teacher, Yugo. Sensei also taught me a lot in the past. I have the utmost respect for both of them as women and as kunoichi. They are both very beautiful and deadly in their own field of expertise. I am perfectly fine with staying a Chunin should I fail to perform adequately against both of them at the same time." Finished. Naruto made a bow to Kurenai, and this time around. His last criticism of their talent and feminine charms made both women blush, but they both knew he wasn't trying to be disrespectful. They gave Tsunade a nod to indicate that they agreed with Naruto's request. Finally, Tsunade grinned and nodded at Naruto, saying, "Seeing as Kurenai and Yugo agreed to your idea, I see no reason not to allow it as long as you know that you will be doing lots of gate guarding time should you fail this test." Arena Naruto began to unzip his jacket once more as the two women approached him and Genma. This time, he removed it along with his mask and set it aside, but he kept the katana. The women in the audience gave him the same response that he had received the first time, particularly the two who were directly in front of him. When Kurenai saw Naruto up close and personal for the first time, she blushed and asked, Do you have to fight almost naked again, Naruto?" Yugo, hiding her identity by not wearing her usual Anbu gear, decided to watch a surprisingly interesting ground. Shocked, Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, "Hi, I do. I promise there's a good reason and you will understand why soon, sensei." Genma approved the start of the test, observing that everyone was prepared. Uzumaki Naruto versus Yuhi Kurenai and Azuki Yugo. With a familiar hand gesture, Naruto launched his Muga no Kyochi wind field right away. He then assumed a defensive stance, his short katana poised to pierce his opponent with his right hand. The wakizashi was exquisite, featuring a blue handle and a tsuba made of two golden metal components that, when arranged around the blade, approximated the shape of a S. Since her art didn't heavily rely on stamina, Kurenai decided to stick relatively close to him despite learning of his new ability to drain opponents' stamina. That gave her time to plan her next move against him. But Yugo made the decision to keep a safe distance and wait for the ideal opportunity to charge in, knowing that Kurenai would undoubtedly present her with a chance to attack Naruto if he displayed a weakness in his defense. Unlike her friend, Yugo required stamina to support her Kenjutsu, so she made the decision to send chakra to her feet and be prepared to jump in when she could. When Naruto noticed that his two senseis were positioned to take advantage of any weakness he might display, he made the decision to get ready to use his first genjutsu move. He lightly cut his thumb with his katana, then smeared some blood over his fox tattoo. The audience was filled with a sudden explosion of chakra as the tattoo glowed once. The arena was covered in a thick layer of dust as the wind picked up strength. Holders of Byakugans could see that Naruto's chakra output had nearly doubled, and for the others, up in the stands, the temperature felt much warmer. Finally assuming a defensive posture, Naruto unleashes his genjutsu, Futon Mabaroshi no Sakai. Everyone was surprised that Naruto's jutsu had no effect because Yugo and Kurenai were still standing there with their guard up. They had all been waiting to see what his powers would do. It was then assumed by all that he had failed in his technique to catch either of them. Kurenai seized the moment to unleash her own genjutsu, Megan Jubaku Satsu. Anyone who had previously encountered that technique was aware that Kurenai would ensnare her target in a deceptive illusion, giving the impression that a tree had suddenly grown around them, rendering them immobile and therefore helpless. Naruto appeared to have been taken aback by her jutsu because he suddenly let down his guard, his eyes appeared vacant, and he was holding his katana while his arms were hanging loosely to either side of his body. Sensing that this was her chance, Yugo raced over to the helpless Naruto and put him in a submission hold, then gave Kurenai the signal to let go of her grip on him. When he declared that he wouldn't, They were both a little disappointed that their valued pupil would fall short of them so quickly. Except for one smug pervert who couldn't wait to see everyone's faces once the trick is revealed, nobody in the stadium was expecting Naruto to escape that predicament. When Yugo suddenly materialized directly behind Naruto, she was expecting to demonstrate his defeat by bringing her katana close to his neck. However, to her surprise, as soon as she touched him, her blade passed through what appeared to be an illusion that did not even fade. Then, just in front of her, another Naruto materialized slowly. He pointed the tip of his blade in her direction while holding it back, and she heard him mumble, "Futon. Kei's Shinso." As soon as he spoke those words, Naruto's katana blade began to glow instantly. Then, in an instant, it appeared to stretch itself at a remarkable speed, allowing everyone to witness a tray of light emerge from the handle of the weapon and move toward Yugo. The Anbu agent's eyes widened as she noticed the smirk on his face. She wasn't really aiming for her, but her years of experience allowed her to barely avoid the flash of light that was heading her way. She attempted to alert Kurenai to the impending danger, but it was too late because her friend was already in the path of the light beam. Kurenai had not anticipated this kind of assault, so she instinctively closed her eyes as the blade approached and pointed directly at her neck. She was fine when she opened her eyes again, but the tree directly behind her was making cracking noises. She realized that a moment ago, Naruto's blade would have killed her if he had wanted it. She merely grinned before deciding to step back and stop interfering with this test. When Naruto noticed that his sensei had given up on the battle, he bowed to her before slashing at Yugo with his katana. She raised her own katana to block him as she saw him get closer, poised to slash in a vertical swing, but then she felt something cold against the back of her neck. She turned around slowly and noticed that Uzumaki Naruto was smirking and had his katana pressed up against her neck. Yugo grinned and said, "I yield, Naruto, congratulations." With a relaxed body and the cancellation of all his jutsu, Naruto said, "Thanks, Yugo, sensei." Then Kurenai moved to the center of the arena to join them and began speaking. She nodded to Naruto and said, "Before we start, I would like confirmation that you only used genjutsu and kenjutsu in this test." Hinata remarked from the stands, "He's telling the truth, sensei. I had my Byakugan activated at all times during the test." "I see. Then I'm ashamed to ask, but could you explain how you caught us both in your genjutsu and how it works, since I didn't even felt any disturbance in my chakra system? I would also like to know how you escaped one of my most powerful genjutsu, since the last time we tried you couldn't even resist the most basic ones." Kurenai replied. Grinning, Naruto asked, "When did you assume that you were not caught in my genjutsu, sensei? You once taught me that genjutsu is the ability to manipulate one's flow of chakra in the victim's brain, thus causing a disruption in their senses. Basically, you take something fake and plant it inside the mind of your victim. Now, as you know, I never had the chakra control to perform that, so I went the other way around and managed to find a way to create my own genjutsu art. What if instead of disrupting my enemy's senses, I made it so that what he really senses from the outside is fake? Inside my wind field, you cannot trust your brain or senses." Began while everyone else was unaware. What he said. "I can control what you see using the refraction phenomena that applies when you see mirages in the desert by overheating the air in certain spots. I can also control what you hear using the vibration in the air in order to create any kind of sound I wish to make you hear, such as incoming footsteps in a wrong direction. I can also make you feel the wind generated by the movement of something around you, whether it is real or not. Obviously, I can also do the opposite and mask my true presence to you in all of those aspects," explained Naruto, leaving the audience once more speechless. Naruto concluded with a smirk, "There is no dispelling against this technique, since I do not feed you any of my chakra to tamper with your brain. In fact, as far as you know, everything you sensed in that field was real and your brain never lied to you. Same about Dujutsu users or mind blocks, none of them can counter this." Some of the Hyuga and Uchiha lovers had to scowl at that assessment. "That was amazing, Naruto. You went above everything I thought was possible and made your own way in an art that was supposedly not made for powerhouse chakra holders like you. How did you escape my jutsu?" said Kurenai. "For one, you were focusing your jutsu on a mirage. Even then, in order to reach me, you have to cast you genjutsu by expelling your chakra in the air, and as you know, I can disrupt anything that comes at me by using air as a medium inside my field," replied Naruto. Kurenai analyzed Kurenai and turned to face Yugo. "Very well, seeing how you countered me and then caught both of us in your illusion field, I think it is safe to say that you have at least reached elite Jonin level in genjutsu skills. I see that you opted for something slightly longer than those kunai you used to wield to improve your defensive stance, as I said that it was one of your weakness. I also heard about your fight with Momochi Zabuza the Kiri no Kijin, and how he was able to read your reach even when you used your K's no Ken. It seems you also overcame that weakness by constantly changing your weapon's reach with that strange piercing technique of yours," said Yugo as Naruto nodded. Yugo concluded her analysis by saying, "I will concur with Guy and Kurenai, you also have at least elite Jonin level in Kenjutsu skills." Naruto grinned and said, "Thanks, Yugo, sensei. We will take a break to allow everyone to have lunch and then finish with the last test this afternoon," announced Genma. Cage box. Just as Tsunade turned to return to her office, a Chunin abruptly turned away from her. Hokage. Sama, emergency transmission from Suna. The cage has been kidnapped and Akatsuki is most likely behind it according to them. They require immediate assistance and the return of their ambassador Temari, according to the Chunin. The Hokage office in Konoha. Tsunade was sitting behind her desk, holding a cup of tea. As she read the scroll that Suna had sent them, she begged Konoha's assistance in stopping Akatsuki, who had kidnapped Kage Gaara. She was aware that the rescue mission she was about to program depended heavily on time. She was aware that only Naruto and Jiraiya among her shinobi had battled Akatsuki before. She would also require a competent medic and a tracking team to accompany them. She gave Shizune the order to begin calling the participants in the mission after making her decision. She also sent out a team from Anbu to go to the stadium and inform everyone there that the tests were called off. Naruto's return to active duty had already shown her enough of his abilities, and she knew which rank he would take. Time skip. After 30 minutes, several people were now standing inside Tsunade's office. Temari, the Suna ambassador, wasn't the only one who was perplexed as to why the Hokage had called her in. Sakura, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, and Team Aid with their Jonin sensei Kurenai were also present. As usual, Naruto was the first to break the silence. He was in the middle of eating his 10th bowl of ramen when he asked, utterly bewildered as to why he was called here. "Why are we here, Ba-chan? I thought I had 1 hour before the test resumes." "Your test has been cancelled. There's an emergency. 30 minutes ago, we received a coded message from Suna saying that Gaara had been kidnapped. They spotted at least 2 enemies, wearing black robes with red clouds on them. They are aware of our past experience in dealing with Akatsuki and have asked for our help. Ambassador Temari, you are also to return to your village with the team I will send," replied Tsunade. A million thoughts raced through Temari's mind, leaving her stunned. It took a real strong person to enter her village and take her brother hostage. In an attempt to console the Suna representative, Hinata placed a hand on her shoulder. Kurenai and Kiba said nothing. As he gathered as much intelligence as possible, Jiraiya asked in a serious spying manner, "Is it Itachi and Kisame again?" Sakura's ears pricked up when the Uchiha member was mentioned. "We're not sure yet. It was night time there when the attack took place. All we know is that one of them was using a strange creature to fly and he also used high-level explosives as his main attacks," the Hokage replied. "I thought you wouldn't let me take missions again before the end of the tests," Naruto replied. "It's an emergency. You and Jiraiya are the only shinobi who have prior experience with Akatsuki. Team 8 will be the tracking team while Sakura will be the medic support," began Tsunade. "In fact, I've seen enough of your abilities this morning. You were already highly skilled in ninjutsu before you even left with the pervert. So with my power as the Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto, it is my pleasure to promote you to the rank of Jonin of Konoha," finished Tsunade with a grin. With concern in his voice, Naruto asked, "Not to sound ungrateful, but are you sure the council will roll with that? I don't want to cause you any additional troubles." He was aware that the council was constantly attempting to hurt him and that Gigi would never be able to fully defend him from them. He did not want Tsunade to handle those idiots. "You're 100 years too young to worry about me, brat. For your information, since I took the hat after Sensei retired, I fired all of the previous Elder Council. Since then the civilian council had a lot less political power than in the past since they lost the support of the old fools. Sarutobi Sensei is the only member of the new Elder Council now," replied Tsunade with a smirk. "Very well, I suppose Ero Sennin is in charge then, and when do we leave?" replied Naruto. When everyone began to leave Tsunade's office, she said, "Yes, he is, and you leave in half an hour." Dismissed. She hoped that nothing bad would happen to the team she had just sent out because she had a terrible feeling about this mission. Wind Country boundaries. The Konoha team had been gone for 2 days, and they were going to cross the border into Wind Country. With the testing and everything, Naruto had been too busy to catch up with everyone, so he took advantage of this chance to do so. That Hinata and Kiba were both Chunin rank pleased him. Even now, he found it hard to believe Sakura had taken training seriously and had even joined Tsunade's apprentice program. It seems that Team 7 was dismantled following Sasuke's betrayal and his 3-year absence, and Shino was assigned as his temporary replacement in Team 8. He also looked at the other rookies, all of them, with the exception of Neji, who was already Jonin, turned Chunin. In an attempt to distract Temari from her thoughts about her missing brother, he tried to talk to her. She was a Jonin, as was Konkuro, and Gaara was their Kazekage, of course. She informed him of the incidents that turned her brother from a deranged murderous machine into her village's well-respected leader. Everything began when they returned from their abortive invasion of Konoha. Following their council's debriefing, it became evident to all that their alliance with Konoha was still intact because of Gaara's intervention. How he stopped Otto and their soldiers from being killed, and how he found the betrayer snake that had tricked them into fighting that war by posing as their former cage. Gaara was initially bewildered and unsure of how to handle all of the praise he was receiving. Then, gradually, he began to open up to an increasing number of people. During missions, he frequently risked his life to save the lives of others, and he even took a student. Everyone eventually warmed up to him and began to respect him. He was the obvious choice to be their new Kazekage because he was the strongest shinobi in their village and descended from the previous leader's family. Naruto smiled at her story, pleased for his fellow Jinchuriki. Even so, he pondered whether he might experience the same thing in Konoha at some point. How many more lives would he have to save? How many more allies would he have to win over before anyone realized he wasn't just the demon reborn? How much more would he have to give up before the villagers began to view him as a person rather than a monster? He continues to conceal his true ancestry for the good of the village, believing that should he would discover his connections to the Uzumaki and Namikaze families, they would attempt another invasion. Sanagakure. After a day, the group finally arrived in Suna. After Konkuro's battle with an enemy, they were promptly led to the hospital where he was receiving treatment. He had a serious poisoning, and none of the physicians in the area could treat him. It appeared to be a different kind of poison than anything they had ever encountered, and none of the countermeasures they had tried seemed to be able to stop the poison's spread. Sakura took charge of Tsunade's case and was able to cure him, demonstrating that she was, in fact, her teacher. She displayed some amazing jutsu and healing abilities. In addition, she swiftly assumed control of all medical personnel in the area and collaborated with them to create a counter adoption for Konkuro. In case the team needed more doses when dealing with the same opponent's poison later on, she also prepared extras for the other members. When Konkuro was well enough to talk, he provided them with all the details they required to save Gaara. It seems that Akasuna no Sasori, a former villager and puppetry expert, was one of the Akatsuki members. They received a small portion of Sasori's puppet from Konkuro, which he managed to separate during their battle in the desert. Naruto assured him that he would successfully revive Gaara. They were about to depart when Temari was stopped by the council. Her sensei Baki explained that she was required to stay in the village in order to strengthen the defenses in the event that another nation attacked them while their leader was incapacitated. The Suna princess was very enraged by this and was ready to disobey when someone else leapt in front of them. Sasori was her grandson, and Shio, the retired puppet mistress of Suna, wanted to be the one to stop him. Temari ultimately made the decision to step down and follow orders to stay in the village after realizing that Suna would also send someone strong enough. All she could do was watch in helplessness as the Konoha ninja departed Suna, their tracking ninja following the trail Konkuro left them to rescue her brother Gaara. River region. They entered river country directly from Konkuro's trail. Naruto was relieved to be out of the desert at last. They were now hopping from tree to tree in a vast forest, tracking Sasori's scent. Hinata abruptly came to a halt on a branch, alerting everyone to their presence. As soon as they'd entered the thick forest from the desert, she'd activated her Byakugan. Two huge chakra sources right in front of us. One of them has so much chakra it feels like looking at Naruto-kun, explained Hinata. They didn't have to wait long because, in just 2 minutes, two well-known faces materialized in front of them. Naruto and Jiraiya recognized those faces right away because Hoshigaki Kisame and Uchiha Itachi were now standing in front of them. Itachi said in a tone devoid of emotion, "So we meet again, Naruto-kun, Jiraiya-sama." Naruto smirked and asked, "What's with the cool attitude, not running away again today?" With a murderous expression in his eyes, Kisame replied, "Still as cocky as ever, Gaki." Jiraiya joined them in conversation, asking, "You seriously think you can defeat me with just you two against us all?" Kisame answered, drawing his massive sword and preparing to chop through anything in his path, "We will see, won't we?" Jiraiya, on the other hand, was not duped by them and realized that all they were doing was stalling to prevent them from completing their task of saving the Kazekage. He then devised a plan and let the others know about it. Jiraiya got nods from everyone as they rushed past them. We don't have time for this. Naruto will take care of Itachi while I go against Kisame. I want the rest of you to go ahead and locate their base, but do not engage them. Be careful, they may have set some traps along the way, Jiraiya said. Kisame attempted to stop them, but Jiraiya suddenly materialized in front of him and struck him hard in the head, knocking him back and forcing him to grab his jaw before pursuing him. Alongside Naruto, both Naruto and Itachi remained in their spot, silently facing each other, while Jiraiya went to stop Kisame. Itachi said, oddly pointing a finger at Naruto, "What was Jiraiya Sama thinking, leaving you alone against me?" This was actually his opening move. He mentally referred to his jutsu as Utakata. It was a hypnotic strike that left his opponent defenseless. He could use this genjutsu against someone just by pointing his fingers at them. It appeared to be effective because his blonde opponent abruptly became unfocused and relaxed his arms, indicating that the jutsu had probably connected with him. With a kunai in hand, Itachi charged his opponent, prepared to render him helpless. The kunai passed right through his target as he attempted to pierce it. The illusion in front of the Akatsuki operative slowly vanished, and his eyes widened, shocked to have been caught in what must have been a genjutsu. Not wanting to be tricked again, he said stoically as he activated his Sharingan, "Very impressive Naruto-kun." He was greatly surprised to see chakra flowing all around him as his dojutsu activated. Itachi continued, attempting to elicit information from the young man in front of him. "I always thought you would never be able to cast a genjutsu with your high chakra reserves." As he emerged from behind a tall tree, bare-chested and holding a katana, Naruto yelled, "I guess your file on me is outdated then." Itachi used his dojutsu to verify that the Naruto in front of him was indeed the real one, and he instantly launched a new jutsu. Kaiten. Gokaku no Jutsu. He hurled a massive ball of fire in Naruto's path. The fireball headed straight for Naruto, but the Uchiha mastermind had to scowl when the jutsu struck what appeared to be an illusion once more. Since he had his Sharingan activated, he was certain that the person in front of him was real and that no one could have hit him with a genjutsu. The sound of footsteps startled him out of his reverie from his right, but his eyes widened when he felt a katana suddenly pierce his body from the left. He glanced to the left and noticed a smug Naruto with his katana in hand. When Itachi suddenly smiled and Naruto heard him say, "Bunshin Dai Bakuha," he thought he had succeeded. Knowing that the blast would hit him squarely, he cursed. With no other option, he named his next jutsu, Senpo. Ryu no Hata. A brief flash followed by a loud explosion that rocked the whole place. After the dust settled, Itachi left the woods where he had replaced himself with a log using a kawarimi. He arched an eyebrow at what he saw. Naruto was standing unharmed in the middle of the explosion, his two enormous black wings encircling his body in a protective stance. Naruto cursed himself for not appreciating the strategy used by his opponent, forcing him to divulge information he didn't want the world to know just yet. He drew his katana toward Itachi, still concealed by his dragon wings, as he readied his next move. Itachi's heart exploded and all he heard was, "Futon." Kei's Shinso. As he slowly looked down, all he felt was a gush of wind where his heart had been before he collapsed to the ground. Naruto fully withdrew his wings from his initial position, adopting the same stance as when he employed his long-range wind spear jutsu in his test against Yugo. He was shocked to see the face of a different man he had never seen before when he arrived at Itachi's downed body. The man was still dressed in the Akatsuki outfit from the Itachi fight a few moments earlier. He dispelled all of his spells, sealed the body in a scroll, and moved on, not wanting to waste any more time than he could afford. Naruto leapt in the same direction as the rest of the team and said, "I have to catch up with the others, hope the pervert is fine." River Country. Unidentified cavern. A strange structure stood in a large, dark cave. Aside from the bust, it appeared to be the upper torso of a humanoid form. Two hands and a head were easily distinguishable. The two hands were open in the beggar's posture, with the palms facing upward. Standing on all fingers except one were the representatives of the Akatsuki group. The body of the cage floated in the middle of the cave, connected to the statue by chakra threads. A voice from the group said, "They're here, right in front of the cave entrance as we speak." He had an odd complexion, and something that looked like a carnivorous plant's mouth protruded from the top of his body. There was another voice asking, "How many of them, Zetsu?" "I saw 5 of them, they're from the same group with the toad and the Jinchuriki." "The seal on the door will not hold them forever," replied Zetsu. "We can't move from this spot until the sealing is done. Geto Mazo still needs 1 hour to absorb the essence of the Ichibi." The voice was unidentified. reported Itachi to his group as he emerged from his meditation trance. It seems I failed in slowing down the invaders. Jiraiya saw right through our plan to stall them and gave orders for their group to split. I fought against Uzumaki Naruto while the Toad Sage himself went for Kisame. What do you mean you failed? The Kyuubi Jinchuriki should have been an easy match for you. How could a mere Chunin defeat you? Replied the initial voice. The other people in the room were greatly surprised when Itachi said, the data we have on him before he disappeared 3 years ago are greatly outdated. Even if I was not using my full force against him, he was able to quickly defeat me with unknown techniques. I don't think I even managed to injure him. Kisami's awakening form, who had probably finished his battle with Jiraiya, interrupted them. The same voice exclaimed, report Kisame. The audience in the room waited for the former swordsman of Hidden Mist Village to snarl. I failed to stop Jiraiya. Damn, that old man is crafty. Flashback to half an hour ago, the Toad Sage joined Kisame as he recovered from the blow Jiraiya had just dealt him. In the center of the clearing, they faced one another. Jiraiya was the first to move and exclaimed, Doden. Yomi Numa. Kisame felt himself abruptly sinking into the earth. Gazing downward, he noticed that a tiny marsh suddenly materialized at his feet, entangling him in the process. Jiraiya was in front of him while he was preoccupied. With a Rasengan already formed in his right hand, Jiraiya leapt at him, ready to finish him. Without delay, Kisame pulled out his sword, Samahata, and held it in front of him to block the approaching Rasengan. To Jiraiya's surprise, the swirling chakra orb lost some of its power at the contact. Kisame managed to escape from the swamp that Jiraiya had made to impede his movements thanks to the recoil caused by the two techniques colliding. Then the missing shinobi from Mist seized the chance to launch an attack. In preparation, he reviewed his own hand signals. Sweden. Daibakusu Shuha, yelled Kisame, sending a massive wave of water shooting out of his mouth, submerging everything in its path. Jiraiya just leapt into the air, and as soon as the jutsu calmed down, he stood on top of the water. Kisame wasn't done yet, and he was going through hand signals once more for another jutsu, so he was unable to unwind. Kisame exclaimed, Suiro se Modori no Jutsu. As he finished his maneuver, all of the surrounding water collected at one location to form a massive water bubble. They were both imprisoned inside. Kisame was also able to fuse with his sword thanks to this peculiar method. The end product was an ugly cross between a man and a shark. Inside the enormous water prison, Jiraiya took his place and remained motionless, keeping his eyes closed and his breath held to prevent asphyxia. Kisame never saw him summon the two tiny frogs that were perched on each of his shoulders. Jiraiya was about to be killed by Kisame in his hybrid form when the hermit toad abruptly opened his eyes. Kisame noticed that the Gamma Sennin had undergone an odd metamorphosis. His nose was larger and his eyes had an odd appearance. Kisame attacked the motionless Toad Sage, unwilling to wait. He was taken aback when his opponent unexpectedly grabbed his fist as he got closer to his target. The Sennin's strength was also no laughing matter, as he was unable to free his fist from Jiraiya's firm hold. The weirdest thing then occurred. As a result of his merging with Samahata, Kisame felt a chakra source leave Jiraiya and enter his own body. But as he kept absorbing Jiraiya's chakra, something strange began to happen to him. His hand then slowly turned to stone a few seconds later, and soon after that, his entire body did the same. Kisami's final glimpse of the Toad Sage was of his smiling face as he called out his next jutsu, Senpo. Cho Udama Rasengan, before everything went dark. Flashback concludes. Kisame concluded his report to the group by saying, and that's it, all I know is that he was somehow able to use a jutsu to transform my body into stone. The voice of the apparent leader said, I see, that's most troubling. Itachi, finish your report. How did the Jinchuriki defeat you? Then Itachi followed Kisami's example and gave the group an overview of his battle with Naruto. Well, at least we know a bit more about him than what we could learn from Kisame about Jiraiya. Uzumaki Naruto has very powerful genjutsu skills, on par or even better than the perception of the Sharingan. He uses a wind-type sword and has reached the Sennin level of the Dragon Clan. Analyzed the leader. Both of them are strong enough to easily defeat the underpowered shadows of Itachi and Kisame. We will not engage them again until we have more intelligence on either of them. However, I have a plan to draw out more of the Jinchuriki hidden skills, so we may know more about him the next time any of us has to face him. They're back. It seems they took care of the external seals too. Jiraiya and the Jinchuriki are coming too. Zetsu was interrupted. Damn, we don't have enough time to complete the sealing. I don't want them to see the Gedo Mazo. We can't risk them destroying it. No choice, dispel the technique and sever your connection. Deidara and Sasori. Try to take the cage with you but escape without it if you can't, instructed the leader. Each figure ceased sending chakra toward the statue. The jutsu was not complete, so the collected chakra scattered and returned to Gaara, who let out a painful scream. The members then gradually vanished into the darkness, leaving just the two of them who were physically present inside the cave. The figure vanished as well, leaving the lifeless but still moving body of Gaara on the ground. 5 minutes ago, outside the cave a massive boulder stood in the way of Kurenai, Chiyo, Sakura, Hinata, and Kiba as they attempted to enter what appeared to be a massive cave. Kurenai asked, "Are you sure Gaara is inside Kiba?" "Yes, sensei. I can smell his scent as well as the one from the Akatsuki member we were provided with by Kankuro just behind this stone wall," replied the Inuzuka. "He's right, sensei. I can also see him with my dojutsu. It's really dark so I can't see who else is inside, but he's the closest to the entrance. He's floating mid-air and he seems in pain but alive," reported Hinata with her dojutsu engaged. Kiba, getting ready to perform a jutsu with his dog, said, "Then let's go. I'm sure Akamaru and I can easily destroy that huge rock." "Wait, you won't break it so easily. There's a seal protecting it," Chiyo replied. Kurenai asked, "What type of seal?" "It's a Gofu Kekai. In order to break it we need to destroy the 4 other seals placed all around the cave that protects it," replied the elderly Kunoichi. With the exception of Chiyo, who remained in front of the cave, Hinata gave them the locations of the 4 protection seals, after which they all departed to disable them. After eliminating every seal, it took them 15 minutes, after which they all went back to the cave's entrance. Right now the scouting group encountered Jiraiya and Naruto, who had also defeated their opponents, as they returned to the cave entrance. They gave a brief explanation of the circumstances before getting ready to raid the cave. Instantly, Naruto triggered the Muga no Kyochi, the first level of his bloodline. Worried about Gaara, Naruto asked Natsuki, "Na-chan, are you sure you can still feel his chakra behind this rock?" "Yes, I can still feel the Ichibi. He seems extremely weak though. Whatever is inside this cave was strong enough to hurt him that much. Be very careful, Naru-kun," replied the vixen. "You know I'm never going to betray a promise I made. I'm not going to die here. There are still so many things left for me to do in this world," he responded. Concerned for her chosen mate, Natsuki said, "Just be careful and stay focused." After feeling his chakra reserve reach its maximum once more and activating his Yuki storage seal, Naruto pulled out his katana. Sakura charged her jutsu and charged towards her target, realizing that it was her job to remove the enormous rock. The Kunoichi exclaimed, "Okasho!" just before her fist struck the enormous boulder. The rock collapsed and was completely destroyed, having an instantaneous effect. The body of Gaara was found inside the cave, and the 2 Akatsuki members who had attacked Suna were standing in front of him. The smaller one was recognized as Sasori because it was easy to see his puppet's tail behind his back. Jiraiya recognized the other as Deidara the Mad Bomber, one of the missing ninja from Iwa, having recognized him from the bingo book. Jiraiya gave an order as they all nodded and headed out to complete their missions. Naruto will create an opening, then Kurenai, Hinata, and Kiba will escort the cage back to Suna. Sakura and Chiyo-san will fight Sasori since she knows him best, being his grandmother, and Sakura has a cure to his poison attacks. Finally, Naruto and I will deal with the blonde one. Naruto called out, "Futon! Kei's Shinso!" as his wind spear abruptly extended and passed between Sasori and Deidara. While the 2 skilled shinobi managed to avoid the blow, Kurenai and her 2 pupils seized the opportunity to take Gaara's body from them. As they watched Team 8's retreating forms, minus Naruto, take off towards Suna with their target, all they could do was curse. Gaara was safe, and Naruto was able to save one of his brothers, so he was relieved. Deidara said, "Looks like we lost the target, huh?" Sasori growled, seeing not just the 2 men their leader had ordered them to stay away from at all costs, but also Chiyo, his grandmother and Suna's puppet mistress. "Shut up, don't you see we got bigger problems right now?" With a sudden expression, Deidara formed a ram seal and said, "Well then, I'll see you later, Katsu." Inside the cave, there was a loud explosion, and Deidara was able to flee by riding a strange-looking bird and taking advantage of the confusion. Jiraiya exclaimed, "That's our target, Naruto," as the 2 emerged from the cave and chased after Deidara. With Sakura and Chiyo, Sasori looked at the 2 people still in front of him and thought, the chances of getting out of this mess alive just increased exponentially thanks to that idiot bomber. "I'm hurt, they think so little of me they would pit me against an old lady and a little girl," taunted Sasori. Both kunoichi remained silent as they got ready to battle Akatsuki's puppet master. Sakura destroyed the puppeteer's main puppet by surprising him with her superior taijutsu and strength. But then he called forth an army of fresh puppets, and the sheer quantity of them soon overpowered her. Chiyo took command, controlling Sakura's body like a puppet with the help of chakra threads, and she survived. Ultimately, Chiyo had to call upon her personal, elite army of puppets to battle her grandson's army, with Sakura delivering the final blow. Sasori gave them a strange secret about an old partner of his inside Akatsuki in a meeting they had scheduled for 2 weeks from now, just before he passed away. Jiraiya and Naruto were trailing behind Deidara, leaping from tree to tree. "Damn, he's getting further away, we won't be able to catch him at this rate," Jiraiya replied. Naruto abruptly stopped next to a tree, then proceeded to follow Hiryu, his fire dragon, while making hand signals for a jutsu, Ninpo. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Deidara was riding a creature that was far slower than the dragon. Naruto drew more chakra from the fox storage and conversion seal, getting ready for his next move. Before long, Naruto was within striking distance and positioned himself to employ his move. Futon. Kamishini no Yari. He cried out while assuming his standard katana stance for practicing his divine wind spear technique. The Akatsuki member felt a powerful gust of wind to his left, but before a blinding pain took over, Deidara realized he was missing his entire left arm. He never saw it coming. He was struggling to maintain balance in order to stay on top of his creature and was bleeding heavily. It was even more impressive to Jiraiya, who was still following them on the ground. He witnessed Naruto take off atop his dragon and then watched as his disciple took up position directly behind the runaway. Even though there were many kilometers separating them, Naruto continued to use his wind spear technique. Given that Naruto only saw the impact on Deidara's arm a moment after his blade blinked, the speed of the cut had to have been extremely high. Deidara made the decision to take a chance on the ground beneath him in the dense forest since he could not possibly escape from such a jutsu in his current state and he did not want to take any more chances. With his bird in hand, he dove quickly and attempted to conceal his identity within the forest. Jiraiya soon joined Naruto as he was flying in circles around Deidara's last observed location. Since neither of them was particularly adept at tracking or sensing, Jiraiya chose to take the easier route and used his own hand signals. Jiraiya nodded to his student and said, "Naruto, get ready, I'll flush him out." He exclaimed, "Doden. Yomi Numa," as a large area of the ground started to sink. Deidara chose to remain a little while longer inside the tall tree he was hiding in despite cursing the sight of the ground vanishing into the enormous swamp. Jiraiya continued his plan, Ninpo. Kachiyose no Jutsu, after realizing there was no outcome, and at this point he was atop Gamabunta, the toad boss. He called out to his enormous summon, "Give me a large quantity of oil, Bunta." Gamabunta rubbed his enormous tummy before following instructions and spewed a massive, pressurized jet of oil in front of him. Jiraiya yelled, "Kaden! Gamayu Enden!" as the entire forest in front of him was ruthlessly set on fire. This time, with the fire rapidly consuming the tree from above and the ground gradually disappearing, Deidara was forced to leave his hiding spot. Unfortunately, Naruto used his death spear technique again, taking away his right arm, and the moment he left the tree, he felt the same pain he had earlier. Deidara succeeded in pulling himself out of Jiraiya's swamp or fire jutsu and into a safe area. The brief period of calm did not last, though, as Jiraiya and Naruto joined him a moment later. After realizing that his opponent was missing both of his arms, Naruto summoned his dragon and advanced on the Akatsuki member. With no emotion, Naruto said, "Surrender, it's over." Deidara remarked, "You think it's over, Before continuing, I'll show you my greatest creation and why art is a bang." Then the Mad Bomber's body started to rapidly change, growing larger from the inside out. Jiraiya's eyes grew wide as she realized what was going on. Then everything went black in an instant. Before Naruto heard the sound of the explosion, he only felt something wet coil around him. When the explosion subsided, Naruto discovered himself in a shadowy area. He took a few tentative steps, feeling his way with his hands in front of him. The floor gave way abruptly, lifting him up with force as the area grew lighter. When Naruto realized where he was and that Gamabunta had spit him out of his mouth, his eyes grew wide. Naruto, who was covered in toad poop and furious, slowly got to his feet when he heard his master's voice. Even though he was grinning, Jiraiya spoke seriously and said, "How many times did I tell you to never underestimate your opponent Naruto? Thanks for the save arrow." "Senin," Naruto growled at his master after realizing that he had just been spared certain death. Jiraiya said, "Okay, let's head back to the cave." As the two turned to leave, Jiraiya noticed Naruto grinning as they were traveling to the cave and inquired about it. The blonde remarked, "I'm just happy for Gaara and I kept my promise to bring him back alive, as he considered his brothers."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.